Ladies and gentlemen of the congregation, how are you today? Welcome to this lovely fireside chat. Ladies and gentlemen of the congregation. I don't remember who said who was showing up and who wasn't, so it may just be the two of us today. I don't know. It could be just the two of us. I don't remember. Did Shim say he was coming on today or not? I don't remember if Shim said he wasn't going to be available today. I know Moon said he was a maybe. So there's that. I could not remember if Shim said he was available today or not. So hello, I am keeping an eye on chat. In case anybody decides that they want to say something in chat, we are here. I have not seen if there has been any word on what's going on with Slime 9 recently. So I have no updates on that. If there is any news, I will let you know, but I don't know.
You know, I put a sign on the door and be like, "Hey,
We're live?
hey!"
Yeah, so instead of just doing your random, like, they can hear us, and I was trying to update them about what was going on with Slime. So
Yeah, sorry about that.
instead of just random. So
Sorry, not sorry.
we've been live for 2 minutes, and you just come in. I put a sign on my door, and I'm like, hey, just so you know, we're live. They can hear you.
But yeah, family.
Yeah, it be that way sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
So
Oh,
we do have a shim today. I was
a
not
shim.
sure.
Hello, sorry. It's because I got out like kind of an ungodly hour at work, so
I wasn't 100% sure if like we were like doing a. I wasn't sure if like you were gonna have
Probably.
you today, or if like you were not able to show up today. I could not remember who was showing up and who wasn't.
yeah, it's all good. Yeah, sorry. I mean, usually if I don't come in or if I can't make it, I usually try to let you know beforehand. If I let you
Or
know
at
day
least
of,
if
it's
you're
like
gonna be
something
late.
extremely because I couldn't do that because I was driving and I was in the middle of traffic and I was like, oh my god, this fucking sucks. So I didn't make it home as quite as much as I would like to today, or as fast as I would have liked to today. But yeah, sorry. At least I made at least 4 minutes early, or 4 minutes late instead of
Late,
like
yeah.
30.
Instead of, I just
Mhm.
noticed the little like cabin
What
or
the
thing you
cabin?
have above your.
Wish I had
Not
a
a
cabin.
cabin, like a little cave.
Yeah, I mean, I'm basically recording this out of my closet, so
Yeah, smart.
it's the only place that I have that's like relatively soundproof. So yes, I am always in the closet until today.
It's funny because of the jokes.
Eh.
Yeah.
Hold on, let me just pull up everything. It should be okay. Yeah, that'll do. Okay.
Anyway.
Oh, I guess other stuff that's going on. Finally done with the VOA voice acting 101 class
That's
and that
cool.
challenge, the like 130 auditions. And I got like 10 roles, it seems. One of
Hey,
which is a
congratulations.
audiobook narration.
Congratulations.
Yeah. So, funny enough, it's actually for a Sonic comic, I believe. Sonic the Hedgehog
Nice.
comic.
Very
Yeah,
nice.
so
Take whatever you can get, man. Every little bit
sadly
of
not a
experience,
bit
good or
paid,
bad,
but
is good. Let's see. It's fine. I mean, as long as you have something else, kind of helping you out. Hold on.
Oh yeah,
In terms of your job or something.
yeah, and doing the challenge gets me a free sampler made, so that's nice as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Good work. Let me see.
Yeah. Oh, Dexter, did you see the Ubisoft presentation today? I did not, but I did see some of Star Wars, the new Star Wars game,
Uh,
and
did you see the gameplay or the trailer?
a little bit of both.
No, the gameplay.
I saw the trailer more than the gameplay. I
Okay, the
skimmed through the
gameplay was
gameplay.
today.
Yeah,
They released
I do need to
gameplay-
finish watching that.
They released gameplay today. They did the Capcom thing today. There wasn't a lot that came out in Capcom that I was actually enthusiastic about. Like the only
Yeah, I was hoping for a new Monhan.
honestly, all the stuff that I was hoping for, like, nah. The only thing that they showed that I was like even remotely interested in was a big nothing burger. It was like they were like, "Hey, Resident Evil 4 remake has VR. Here it is," and I was like,
Cool.
"I don't care."
And
Mm-hmm.
I do.
I mean, it's cool.
Care.
It's a nice.
I'm not.
If
Here's the
Resident
thing:
8 have it.
if I played Street Fighter, I would probably be more excited. They announced some more stuff for Street Fighter 6, and I'm like, okay, I'm not a fighting game person, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
I did.
I
Come
am,
up
but
with I did come up with a name for our podcast that we're gonna do on Fat Dog, and I ran it
Cool.
by Tony, and it was like absolutely on brand. So when we do launch the podcast, whatever it's gonna be, whenever and wherever it's gonna be, we're gonna call it the Technical Difficulties Podcast.
Oh.
Because that's
Good.
so on brand. That's so on brand for Fat Dog. I threw him that.
Oh, not
name.
even just for Fat Dog, but yeah.
But yeah, we're good.
The first thing that came to mind. Oh,
Technical difficulties, and I was like, yeah, that's us. That's one.
That's not bad.
Technical
us.
issues.
Yeah, technical difficulties.
That's not bad.
Is the name of the podcast. I'm waiting to hear back from Calvin on the state of Slime 9 because it's everything on my end is 100% done. And you guys see, okay, good.
At
So
one
good.
point, it's just like,
Cool,
take the wheel, guys. I'm done. I'm out.
I have watched all the gaming stuff that I could up to this point. We will be talking about it on Sunday's presentation stuff. Oh, we did talk about this before on Anime Church. We will have to get a third for Anime Church. We'll have to get a new third or at least a new second because I cannot be by myself for Anime Church. That will be the most boring thing. So I'll have to get somebody to join me for Anime Church because Moon's very busy and unfortunately Fenris isn't going to be able to show up. He is working 7 days a week until he can find a new job. Because he's working 7 days a week because everybody at one of his stores is quitting and so now he has to work that store 7 days a week.
Yeesh.
That's a bummer.
Because he's the manager at that GameStop, so he has to work that GameStop 7 days.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And he's.
I've seen horror stories about that with Domino's too.
Yeah,
like when COVID first came up.
He's working 7 days a week at that store now, so.
Oh. Well, he can just do the podcast from the store.
No, he can't.
Yeah,
No, you can't do that anywhere at retail.
No, he cannot. And so, yeah. So I have to find somebody that will jump on with me to talk nerdy news on Sundays. So that's going to be it. And
Easy.
it has to be somebody here. It can't be one of you random Joe Schmoes, guys. It has to be somebody Fat Dog. It cannot be... I can't pluck people from the audience. Not for Anime Church. Sorry.
Well, at least we know what would be talked about next week. It would be the game presentation stuff.
Game presentation stuff. There's going to be some other nerdy news that will show up. I'm actually going to do some breakdowns of other stuff. Relina and the Duke. I'm going to talk about that a little bit because I literally sat down last night and watched 9 episodes of that. It was pretty good. I literally started from the beginning and I was like, okay, what's this show about? Everybody's talking about it and I'm watching it and I'm like, oh, this is actually pretty good and pretty interesting. Death Mount Death Play has come out with its 10th episode, and yeah, it's fucking phenomenal. I'm loving it. It's great. I'm really enjoying it. Cheat Skill in Another World is just mid. I'm over it. It's like I'm gonna watch it to its conclusion because I've come this far, but it's just like
Well, I mean, you could stop it if you don't watch it. Like, nah, it's not enough to carry me. But
I've watched so much that at this point in time, it's got 2 episodes left. Why am I? What's the point of dropping it when I'm this far in? If I was gonna drop it, I should have dropped it like fucking 8 episodes ago. But like at this point in time, I've invested too much, and
that's fair.
The point of no return was like 7 episodes ago.
Yeah, once you hit that 3rd episode.
Yeah. It's just, dude, no. This was it's the problem is it's just okay. It's not good, it's not bad, but it's not anything. It's just mid.
Yeah. That's actually kind of worse than it being objectively bad.
Yeah.
Sometimes, because I think if it's like bad, but it's at least funny bad, it's rememberable.
It's like
But
It's
if
memorable
like
for being bad,
awful
yeah.
it's like
for being
this is
mid,
good, but it could be
that's-
better. You know?
When it's mid, it's like it's holding you just enough. You're like, okay, fine.
And it's
You
like
get
Yeah.
it feels like
And then
You
you
got me
forget
back,
about it.
and then you
It
immediately
feels-
lose me again, and then you got me
feels like
back,
I
and then you lose me
wasted my
again.
time. It feels like I've wasted so much of my time watching this show when I could have been doing other things. And yet at the same time,
Or watching
Witch
better
from
stuff.
Mercury, Witch from Mercury has been so good. Like as
I
it
have to
gets
finish that
as
or
it gets
keep going
darker
through that.
and darker, it has been getting so good. Especially this last episode. Jesus fucking Christ, man! This show is so good.
Excuse me.
Show is so
Ugh.
dark. Speaking of dark things, the Empire is on the move. Because that's
The
what this next
Empire.
chapter. That's what this next chapter is. The Empire makes its move. Chapter 4.
Yes.
It's actually kind of a short chapter, all things considered. I mean, especially considering the previous chapter took us 3 weeks to get through. So we're starting on 231 of the physical version of the light novel.
Sadly, we have no one for the Bookwalker.
And it's going to take us all the way to 275. So, yeah, we're going to start with chapter 4. I already did the. You were out of your room.
Ah,
And
I was helping
Shim,
family,
you were
yep.
not here, so I already did the ladies and gentlemen of the congregation thing, so you've already missed that.
Oh, yeah, tiny.
Open your books to chapter 4, blah, blah, blah. So, Shim, take us away.
Okay, sorry. I had a little. I was eating some blackberries, so I got a seed in my throat somewhere.
Oh,
It's like, oh,
wait,
Anyway.
do they?
you know me, choking on seeds always. So it's all good.
I mean, there's worse things you could choke on.
Oh, absolutely.
Late.
Oh, excuse me. All right. Chapter 4, The Empire Makes Its Move. The Empire had a mystery man among its ranks. His name was Tatsuya Kondo, an otherworlder who knew everything there was to know about the Imperial Underground. He was the Imperial capital's darkness itself. Ooh. Tatsuya kept his black hair short and tidy, his bangs flowing gently down towards his eyes, and he had a relaxed and well-honed manner of carrying himself. On the surface, he seemed like a nice young man, still in his early 20s, but on the inside, he was cold and calculating, eyes glinting from his barren face. They seemed sharp enough to see through anyone they looked at, not friendly, but clever and cunning. It was only to be expected, for First Lieutenant Kondo wasn't at all the age he seemed. Some ellipses. Here in the Imperial capital, otherworlders were not too uncommon a sight. The Empire pledged to safeguard them, and they had been collected from all around the world. Tatsuya was one such person rescued by this plan, and it entirely had to do with the magic that existed in this realm. What? What's up? Oh, sorry. My mom popped in for a second, just checking in on me, make sure I'm okay.
You good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Coffee.
Let's see.
Coffee.
Yeah.
You want some coffee, hon?
Water.
Uh,
no, not
I mean, she
coffee.
would, but no.
Coughing.
Coughing? Oh, okay.
Again. Yeah. Anyway.
Ekans, which is just snake backwards.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And Arbok's just Cobra. Anyway.
Oh, actually, that one I did not know.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's it. Anyway. Tatsuya was one such person rescued by this plan, and it entirely had to do with the magic that existed in this realm. Over 70 years ago, Tatsuya risked his life for the sake of his country and served in a special military operation, a kamikaze squadron ordered to strike enemy naval fleets. Tatsuya had no comment on the need for this mission. Looking back on how things were those days, all he thought was, well, there was nothing else he could do. He just looked back at the men who lived and died serving under him and hoped he could find some kind of meaning in their actions. Even now, he never forgot about them. And to make sure of that, so he could continue living with the memory of his comrades, he retained the same rank of first lieutenant that he held back then. So Tatsuya had headed off to his death, but with a flash of explosive heat and light, he instead found himself in another world. He felt death at arm's length, but rather he survived. It was the Emperor himself who had saved Tatsuya. Luck was on Tatsuya's side that day. He appeared in a garden accessible by only the Emperor and a few close associates. The Emperor happened to be relaxing there at that very moment. How interesting, Tatsuya heard a voice say. Perhaps this is fate at work. Then he passed out, and when he woke up, he was completely intact, not a scratch on him. His luck had saved his life, the same life he'd once abandoned, which he now swore to use to repay the Emperor's kindness. All the powers he awoke to after his journey across worlds, and his brush with death, he gave to the Emperor. That remained true to this very day. He never appeared on the public stage. He never aged, looking exactly as he did back then. And there, in the Imperial Intelligence Office, nestled in the capital shadow, deep in the Empire's darkness, he could be found. A mysterious figure stalking the halls of information. A man hidden behind the Emperor's shadow. Or Empire's shadow. A human. A wrangler of evil. Tatsuya Kondo went by many monikers. He was the head of the Imperial Information Bureau, and he was feared as a question mark, one not even the commander of each division could ignore. Square ellipses. The IIB had picked up information that Ghidorah sent a team led by Shinji to conquer the dungeon. Ah, I see. Good work. First Lieutenant Kondo was a quiet man. He had said no more than that. His informant, used to this treatment, saluted and left. Kondo was never one to state his thoughts to others. Reports submitted to him contained detailed information on Yuki's men. Over 1,000 otherworlders had been collected from around the world. A little under a tenth of them had awoken to 0 unique skills. These men and women were set up in the Imperial capital and allowed to live their lives in peace. A little over a tenth had battle-oriented unique skills. They numbered over 100, and each was assigned to the division that best suited their abilities. The rest were referred to non-military professions based on their skill set, finding useful work in a vast variety of professions. Right then, the problem was that the otherworlders awakened to battle skills. Yuki Kagarazaka was the founder of the Free Guild in the Western nations, serving as Grandmaster until a year ago, and he harnessed that power to rescue otherworlders. That, at least, was how Yuki described himself, but the IIB already knew that was a lie. Trends indicated that he had grown friendly with the Rozo family, taking advantage of their influence. The IIB knew that the West was proceeding with an illicit forbidden summoning program that had led to large numbers of otherworlders in their lands. There was no other explanation for why they had so many battle-oriented ones in their possession. Through the use of a locking curse, it was also possible to force the summon into an irreversible oath of loyalty. These summons were the best way to build a team that was guaranteed never to betray you, and now those otherworlders were deployed in a variety of militaries. Kondo saw this as grave news, an imminent danger. He had consummate perception skills and an intuition that was truly fearsome, and Kondo was right to be concerned. The results were revealed in this report. Based on his words and actions since moving to the Empire, the Imperial Information Bureau believed there was a high probability that Yuki was going to launch a coup attempt. They also had a list of the people Yuki had tapped for the effort. Based on his achievements, the Empire had accepted his request for asylum, but he didn't seem to appreciate it much. Instead, he did his own thing, working hard to expand his power and putting his hand-picked associates into each army division. Several of them had even been appointed Imperial Knights, one of the Empire's highest honors. The army division was one thing, but allowing traitors into the Imperial Guardians, a force built to protect His Majesty the Emperor, simply wasn't allowable. Kondo could no longer let this slide. This is dangerous, he decided. Yuki Kagarazaka, you are clearly someone who deserves to be eliminated. Now, however, was not the time to act. Lord Ghidorah, master sorcerer and one of the most powerful people in the Empire, was reportedly connected to Yuki. They had evidence to back up this report, but it was unclear just how deep this relationship was. Lord Ghidorah's importance to the Emperor or to the Empire went without saying. Kondo doubted he'd turn traitor on a passing whim, but he also knew that he worked alongside the Empire chiefly because his goals matched the state's ideals. Perhaps then, some trigger might put his goals in conflict with the Empire. If it ever does, that old man is just as dangerous. In which case, Yuki and Ghidorah, Yuki looked just like a boy, but his actions indicated the touch of an experienced man, like Kondo himself. He was too dangerous a subject to judge on looks alone. Ghidorah looked like an aged man, but he was much more than that. A living monster, really, having lived for over 1,000 years. Anyone who wanted to oppose him couldn't go in with a half-hearted approach. So it was time to gather information. They had evidence, but there still wasn't enough intel. For now, it was too early to move out in the open. He would carefully investigate each of Yuki's otherworlders and examine whether any had locking curses upon them. But if Yuki or Ghidorah made any suspicious moves, don't expect a public trial. First Lieutenant Kondo, the man hidden behind the Empire's shadow, would never give mercy to traitors. Dance on, won't you? For the sake of the Empire. Both of you are already in my hands. There, in the darkness of the Empire, Kondo softly whispered to himself, a cold light in his eyes.
Man, the amount of misinformation that you do not possess.
Right?
Wow.
Yeah, he is. For a man in the dark, he is also very much in the dark.
Yeah, for a man who leads an intelligence bureau, you are severely lacking on information.
Yes, that's the better way to put it. Inside an office with an ornate desk, a one-eyed man was seated in a luxuriant chair.
Oh, yeah,
a patch covered his left eye.
Kondo does have some broken-ass abilities, though.
Oh, okay. I'm assuming it has something to do with age, but we'll get there, I guess.
Oh, no, it's not age. Kondo has some broken abilities that are actually, like, so broken, they're a match for Rimuru.
Oh, fuck. Okay. That's interesting.
Yeah, this is...
current Rimuru.
Current Rimuru, and Kondo is the one person that Yuki couldn't actually take out right now.
Okay. That says a lot. A patch covered his left eye. He was skinny and appeared in his 40s. His name was Caligulio? Is that how you say that?
Yeah, Caligulio.
Caligulio, okay. And he was commander of the Armored Division, the most powerful force in the Empire. Cunnilingus. On the desk before him were several magic crystals, pure, high-quality examples.
Maddie, no, Maddie. He is not the strongest warrior in the Empire. He is the third
What's
strongest.
so fun?
He is the third strongest warrior in the Empire.
It's a joke name, sir, like Ciliosaurus or Clituslicus.
Biggest
No. Sorry, you said Cunnilingus, and I thought
Or Gage Man, if you want to go Phoenix.
Yeah, good.
What's so funny about Biggest Dicketh? Anyway.
Such insolence.
This is a proud name, sir, and I will thank you to respect
I have a very good friend in Rome named Biggest Dicketh.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I'll find myself a
Biggest the
gladiator school very
third
quickly.
I am, actually.
Brian!
My father was the biggest Dickest.
No.
All right.
No, Brian. Slap.
Brian.
Good.
Throw him to the floor. Oh, yes.
What's that?
Throw
him to the floor. They just pick him up and strike him, Centurion. Very waffly.
Very waffly.
Anyway. With technology provided by Yuki, these crystals, taken from the cores of the monsters, could be refined into magistones, turning them into a reliable, mass-produced magic source. Monsters would occasionally drop natural magistones, but these could only be collected from those ranked A and above, and having a huge magical count to prove it. These natural magistones were unparalleled in quality, most often used as decoration or magic catalysts than for their content. Unless one had a steady supply of them, they were useless as an energy source. Caligulio reached out and grabbed a magic crystal from the desk. The more he observed it, the more he realized just how high quality it was. He put it back down, already missing the feeling of it in his hand, and picked out the report that came with these specimens. It was from the research lab. It stated that magic crystals of this quality could each produce 100 Empire-made magistones. They were pure enough to turn into energy as is, and naturally collecting crystals of this standard would require at least a B-rank monster. Damn you, Ghidorah! Keeping such a money-making opportunity under your hat! Caligulio was angry. He had paid off the researchers, telling them to inform him of any developments, and this report was the result. Ghidorah had only just brought in these magic crystals. He didn't say where they were collected, but based on their number, Caligulio surmised he'd stumbled across a monster nest. They were first-rate specimens after all, and testing indicated they all contained around the same amount of energy. You couldn't see this consistency from harvesting different species at once. Some variants would be unavoidable, and you'd have to refine them into magistones for practicality's sake. No, these magic crystals were surprisingly similar in quality, indicating they all came from the same species of monster. Caligulio didn't expect to be able to tame these monsters, whatever they were, and raise them in captivity, but even regularly scheduled culls would help the Empire shore up its energy mix. However, it appeared things were far more complicated. Caligulio's face twisted into a longing grin. The report concluded that securing whatever hunting ground produced these magic crystals would put them a long way towards a steady energy supply, and they had more than a vague idea where these monsters lived. In fact, they had the exact spot, the heavily rumored dungeon located within the Demon Lord Reamer's domain. That damned old man's been giving too much attention to that kid Yuki. I hardly see him any longer. How dare he try to hoard this opportunity for himself? This was the origin of Caligulio's annoyance. That wasn't all. A high-level noble he was on good terms with informed him of a rather interesting story. He, along with many of his kin, didn't bother hiding the glee when they told him that Ghidorah had gone off to investigate this dungeon, and lost 3 of his apprentices to it. This would normally elicit little more than a bit of sympathy, but what Ghidorah brought back was the problem. Turns out he didn't just come home with the magic crystals, he brought treasure too. Among them was a sword currently decorating Caligulio's office, a pristine example of magisteel make that clearly required great skill to forge. It was a truly excellent piece, one only the finest artisans of the Dwarven Kingdom were capable of. In fact, considering the metal's purity, it was even better than that. Nothing circulating within the Empire compared. Caligulio had purchased a sword from his well-placed noble friend, part of a set of 3, one of which he already handed over to this division's technical department. The noble boasted about how it was a rare find, perhaps infused with some mysterious power, and he encouraged Caligulio to invest in them, even though Ghidorah had presented them to the noble at no charge. Caligulio asked why Ghidorah gave them away for free, and the noble demurred. You know, I can't tell you, he had bragged. So the commander paid a total of 300 gold coins, 100 per blade. Even he was curious about them, and after purchasing the set, the noble finally agreed to give him a few hints. Caligulio himself was from lower-level nobility, making up to division commander exclusively through talent. Since the Empire was a pure meritocracy, he technically outranked the upper crust noble he got the swords from, since his title was based on birthright alone. Normally, he wouldn't give someone like Caligulio the time of day, but thanks to his rank, he had to at least feign politeness. I'm sure he's still turning up his nose at me, but that doesn't matter. Right now, I need to figure out how to exploit them for all they've got. The upper nobility never took action unless they stood to gain something from it. None of them were soft enough to tell him anything out of the goodness of their hearts. No, there must have been some cold number crunching behind their reaching out and telling him about Ghidorah's findings. Essentially, they had put Caligulio and Yuki on opposite sides of the scale. I can't believe how utterly greedy those nobles are. But look at you, Ghidorah. How dare you lobby the nobility to send the composite division to capture the labyrinth? You could have recommended my division, but no. I can't believe he's still sore about me taking the armored division from him. The armored division had just completed a major modernization campaign, thanks to Ghidorah's support. Its headcount had grown tens to hundreds of times over, but Ghidorah had absolutely no command over it. Caligulio was sure Ghidorah envied him for that. But fine. My noble informants were certainly a stroke of good luck. Now I can give them all the slip and claim this prize for my force. Winning over the upper crust nobility, of course, came at a price. If Caligulio did claim that prize, a decent percentage of it would have to go into their pockets, but he still didn't think it was a bad deal. This labyrinth produces more than just magic crystals. This sword is simply excellent. Rare class now, maybe unique class in 100 years. Even faster, perhaps, given how much magisteel they used. This alone proves how valuable the labyrinth would be in my hands. That was why Caligulio went through the effort of winning over the nobles.
You can
thinking...
You can already see Rimuru pulling on the strings here.
Yeah, like...
Just lightly tugging on this idiot's greed.
Like,
Yeah, you can see...
because he's like...
Just the efficiency of this. You can already see, it's like, they've already, before they even know it, they've already fallen into his trap.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Hey, they're shiny things. They're pretty. Anyway.
So much money.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now he was thinking about how he'd continue to fund this effort going forward, but in the back of his mind there was one nagging doubt. But what could that slot be for anyway? The well-placed noble mentioned a mysterious power, and he was sure that was straight from Ghidorah's mouth. Caligulio couldn't detect anything like that, but the empty slot on the hilt intrigued him. What could it mean? He had no way of telling. That's why he gave one to his technical department, but their analysis wasn't done yet. Of course, unlike in the West, the sword era is well and truly over in the Empire anyway. He was right. No matter what kind of value was locked inside the sword, it meant little to his modernized division. Only a well-trained warrior could get much use out of it, one like Caligulio himself or his close advisors. That was why he couldn't wait to hear the results. A few days later, Caligulio received an astonishing report. Allowing me to explain, said his chief technician, who came over to deliver the analysis in person. Following a scientific examination, they had discovered quite a few things. For one, the slot wasn't a design touch. It was an energy absorption device, a vehicle for the efficient production of magic. This wasn't a sword at all. It was really more of a magic launcher. This is from the Demon Lord Rimuru. Then we sure can't make light of him, no. What an interesting idea. Yeah, absolutely so. I believe it's meant to confuse opponents into believing it's a close-range weapon, only to surprise them with magic. And if the right energy supply is inserted into the slot, the caster, or the wielder, I suppose, in this case, can cast magic with no effort at all. Yes, the most unique aspect of this weapon was how it let people non-sensitive to magic cast their own spells. It just flew in the face of common sense. What? The chief technician asked. Are you sure this was discovered inside the labyrinth? Yes, we're sure about that. I sent some of my own men to the scene, and they backed up everything Ghidorah told us. Caligulio had sent a team of his own to the monster city of Rimuru to gather intel on the labyrinth. Their investigation hit a brick wall around the Floor 40 region, but a merchant gave them an interesting bit of info. Apparently, these slotted weapons were discovered inside the labyrinth, and while they went on a premium on the market, they were still cheaper than unique class arms. So, what are they for? Think about it a little. Think about it a little. We only approve a new weapon after extensive testing, don't we? The chief technician was an intelligent man, but not at all a tactician. Only when Caligulio spelled it out for him did he understand their usefulness. I see. So they're putting them in the hands of that massive crowd of adventurers and having them examine their performance. That does make logical sense. When we placed a Magistone in the slot, the sword immediately went up a rank and became a powerful magic sword. But we don't think their utility ends there. They need to experiment a great deal more to gain a full picture of it. I'm sure it would take them years. Right. So instead, they're more or less passing them out at random and letting the masses test them. And once they have all the data they need, I'm sure they're planning to take them all back. Caligulio had, to some extent, accurately read Rimuru's motives. Based on his own experience, he knew an experiment like this would take time to conduct. For now, these were strictly test weapons, but it'd still be dangerous to let them buy any more time. Humans were strange and interesting creatures. Some of them had a knack for stumbling upon the kernel of something brilliant, especially those who willingly expose themselves to danger. It really is a smart idea, he mused, literally conducting human experiments in a lab where nobody would ever die.
Yeah.
It's true. we were told this bracelet.
Crazy enough to work.
It's crazy enough to work.
Right, anyway, continue, sorry.
Yeah. We were told this bracelet was required for that, but our analysis hasn't produced any reportable results yet. If the rumors about that are true, it'd certainly be a boon to military training, wouldn't it? The chief technician, The chief technician took out a carefully sealed box and showed it to Caligulio. Inside was a resurrection bracelet, one of the treasures Ghidorah had brought back. I'm sure this example's fake, of course. Regardless, if our army can capture this labyrinth. If it did and discovered the bracelet system to be the truth, the results for his force would be beyond substantial. You are an ambitious man, Sir Caligulio, but are you prepared to fight a demon lord over it? Of course I am. It'd be a bad move to challenge it for no reason, but the Forest of Jura is right in the middle of our invasion route, and this labyrinth's at a spot we simply cannot ignore. Someone has to capture it. Well, it's all in how you frame it, I suppose. They exchanged a chuckle over this. Think about it, after all. In one fell swoop, we can secure a stable magic crystal supply and an efficient test space, and maybe the enemy's latest weapons, if all goes well. In that case, it's imperative the armored division captures it before someone else, doesn't it, Sir Caligulio? No need to remind me. You can expect big news before long. The chief technician gave this a pleased smile. Caligulio returned the favor with a thin smile of his own. It seemed the old man is losing his wits, though, said the technician. Seem? Oh, I'm sure of it. He's so distracted by the magic crystals, he failed to realize this sword, and the labyrinth itself, is the real prize. One One unfortunate side effect of focusing so much on magic, no doubt. After all, a weapon that can change its rank is nothing short of a breakthrough. Caligulio believed his technician was right. Ghidorah was a great man, but the age of pure magic was over. A new wind called science was blowing across the land, and that combined with magic heralded the beginning of a new era.
Or you guys are so full of yourselves, you don't realize that you're being played.
Yeah, basically puppets dancing.
You're being rendered obsolete.
Anyway.
And that, you see, is why I'm better qualified to lead the armored division. That old man could have won my respect if he only knew where his place was. But if he's going to recruit Yuki for his schemes, I see no need to show him mercy. As he thought this, Caligulio began formulating a plan. Attempting to take on multiple demon lords would be ill-advised, and is, but Reamer alone would not be a problem. The Storm Dragon, one of the Empire's most fervent desires, was targeted for a takedown. They had a new weapon developed by Caligulio himself, and with it they'd force the Storm Dragon to do their bidding. If they pulled it off, it'd pay huge dividends, even if it required some sacrifice. Yet Lord Ghidorah remained staunchly against it. That was the last straw, the one thing that made Caligulio and Ghidorah part ways. Pfft. Once we tame that evil dragon, the Demon Lord's slime will be a pushover. Then we'll prove to the masses that we are the strongest force in the Empire.
Boy,
the time had come.
Crows so hard.
Yeah, they're gonna. Yep. The time had come, and Caligulio couldn't be more excited. He'd break the nose of Ghidorah for all his insolence, and he'd firm his position within the Empire for good. Before he could, he needed to prove himself. He needed the dragon tamed and the labyrinth captured by his armored division. To make that happen, it is time to march. I will make the proposal at the next Imperial Council. Ah, the day's finally here. Caligulio nodded. No need to wait for all their Demon Lord preparations to wrap up. He was ready to shut the mouths of anyone using that as an excuse for hesitation. You won't get your head start, Ghidorah. And Yuki, I bet you are ecstatic to have Ghidorah on your side, aren't you? Well, I'm about to teach you exactly where you belong. He sneered at all his foolish colleagues. They had every chance to gain valuable information, and they let it go by without even realizing it. They were all a bunch of imbecilic wannabes anyway. Caligulio was sure of it. But even he derided his peers, or even as he derided his peers, his mind never stopped working. How could he glean the most profit from this? He thought this over as he began to assemble his full proposal to the Empire, or the Emperor, and with that, the Empire would begin to move.
Alrighty. He's kind of walking right into Rimuru trap with reckless abandon.
Remind yourself that overconfidence.
We're part
is
of the
slow.
Empire. Who
And
cares
insidious
about
killer.
recklessness?
I can't
Just
wait.
throw more troops at him. It'll be fine.
Yeah, sure.
Mhm.
I can't wait for next volume. Volume 13, aka ass whooping.
We're getting there.
Yeah, we are getting there. All right, so you got about another 20 minutes worth of reading.
Yeah, I gotcha.
All right.
The Imperial Council was about to begin. The military officers and the civil officials, too, seated in a neat row. All were nervous. This was not a peacetime gathering, and nobody else even dared venture near the great conference hall where the council took place. Things were different with this meeting. Everyone could feel it. Everyone bowed their head when the Emperor's entry was announced. Behind the blind, they could sense someone. The United Emperor, Ghidorah Namul Nazca, supreme leader of the Nazca Almeria United Eastern Empire, the world's greatest military superpower.
Yeah,
He never
try saying
spoke
that
directly
3
to
times
them.
fast.
I know, I was like, fucking Nazca Almeria. I'm just going to call it the Nue.
The
Yeah.
NNU.
Wah.
Yeah, the NNUUU.
Namu Nazca.
Yeah.
NNUU. The new
Yeah.
empire.
The new.
Yeah.
New-
He didn't. The Nue.
The new.
Yeah. He never spoke directly to the masses, only through the blind could one be privy to his presence. He was the apex of society, and only his closest associates even laid eyes upon him. Simply being there overwhelmed all nearby. He was the sole commander, the absolute, and just a very small handful of people were permitted to voice their opinions around him. Nearly 200 people were assembled in the meeting hall. Commanders of each imperial division were there, along with their aides. So were the elite members of the Imperial Guardians, standing at attention in a clean, well-practiced line. Government ministers and members of the House of Lords filled the chamber seats, a truly distinguished group of people, all with their heads bowed as one. Only the rustling of clothes echoed in silence. Then all sound disappeared. With that signal, the Prime Minister motioned towards the Chief of Protocol. His Majesty, The Emperor! Everyone in the chamber voiced their greeting in unison, breaking their stillness like a mighty choir. So began the Imperial Council, one that would doubtlessly go down in history, for they were scheduled to debate the Empire's upcoming invasion. Ellipses. The meeting solemnly began. With regard to the large-scale campaign in the works, opinion among the council were divided into two factions, a cautious conservative side and the more enthusiastic among those calling for war. The first topic for discussion: what pretense would they use to launch the war? It was a silly question. The Emperor willed it, and so it shall be. But was war possible? That's where opinions differed. One side called for careful action, the other an all-out trouncing. Meanwhile, the civil officials argued that they should begin with diplomatic efforts, a call to surrender, for example, or some threats to lay on the pressure. If the emperor believed the time for war had come, no one had the authority to defy him, but the imperial edict had yet to arrive, and so every side brought their own motivations to this council. The war was a matter of time, and how to wage it was the issue. The demon lords, their domains dotted across the continent, were an annoyance, but none of them would take action unless their borders were violated. The real obstacle was the storm dragon, and the debate subsequently turned towards the forest of Jura. One council member voiced his opposition to the war. If I may, your majesty, I am against this campaign. This was Lord Ghidorah, the Empire's greatest sorcerer, and he spoke without a hint of fear. How shamelessly timid! You bring this up yet again, Sir Ghidorah. He was rebuffed by Commander... Oh, this is Caligulio. How shamelessly timid. You bring this up yet again, Sir Ghidorah. He was rebuffed by Commander Caligulio of the Armored Division. This happened every time. They were the leaders of their respective factions, conservative and belligerent. If we want to strike the West, that will not be an issue, but Veldora, that evil dragon, lurks in the forest of Jura. We have only confirmed the dragon's revival 2 years ago. How could we not be cautious? Some voices agreed. Others derided Ghidorah for his weak-heartedness. Over 300 years had now passed since the Veldora massacre. The terror it caused had largely faded from people's minds. The Warhawks formed the majority faction. The situation didn't look as good for Ghidorah's side. Caligulio, sensing this, decided to fan the flames. There is much, my lord, we can learn from your more cautious stance. However, as I've said here many times before, we now have foolproof measures against Veldora. With our new weapon, it is now fully possible to make that dragon bow to our commands. This is absurd. This is not a forum to talk about your dreams, Sir Caligulio. Nobody can deny the possibility of it failing. So why would we not be cautious? Especially now, when the entirety of the forest is ruled over by a new demon lord. They say demon lords never form alliances, but there's no reason to go out of our way to antagonize one. We have word that the dragon is revived and working in a partnership with Rimuru, the new demon lord. And with any demon lord, the proper way to go about things is with a non-aggression pact. The Valley of Death that linked the Empire with the former domain of Clayman was large enough to march a large army through. That option, however, was off the table, for it meant making an unauthorized entry into the demon lord Milim's territory. If these were fertile lands, their army could proceed much faster than if they had to navigate a forest, but the advantage wasn't worth riling Milim over. Along similar lines, a path through the forest of Jura would put them within shooting distance of the west, but Veldora, the storm dragon, was back, and right next to him was the demon lord Rimuru. As Ghidorah saw it, there was no need to deliberately create more enemies. Several of the council's civil officials agreed with this, but Caligulio just snorted at it. In that case, Sir Ghidorah, are you asking the Empire to give up on its dearest of wishes? If they can't traverse the forest, it'd be difficult to deploy a substantial force in the west. Caligulio's question thus had the full support of the military behind it. Sir Caligulio is right, my lord. Before the mighty Empire, a demon lord is no threat at all. How can you be so disrespectful in front of His Majesty? Dare you defy the will of the Empire, or the Emperor, Sir Ghidorah? No, think about it. Instead of taking on a demon lord, it is far wiser to win the cooperation of the Dwarven King. We'd suffer no casualties, and it would make seizing the Empire or the West that much easier. Ghidorah tried to rebuke these opposing viewpoints, but one onlooker laughed at him. You are the one being absurd, Sir Ghidorah. The Dwarven King is renowned as the master of the sword. His predecessor was a mighty champion, and he is just as powerful. He is surrounded by a legion of other notorious heroes, all capable of putting up more resistance than any demon lord. I would relish the chance of waging battle against them, but that is not our main objective. Instead of fighting a group of champions, we would receive far more public support for slaying a demon lord. The shouting came from Gradim, the Beast King and commander of the Magical Beast Division. All he had to do was stand up, and the intimidation he exuded was overwhelming. What's up?
I'm just sitting here thinking about the army and the casualties that are going to be so overwhelmingly one-sided that are coming up.
Yeah. It's going to be
the amount of
there will be blood.
athlete's tongue that this boy is going to end up having from sticking his foot so far in his mouth. Yeah.
He's going to have footprints on the back of his tongue.
I'm telling you,
Good.
man. This is great. I can't wait.
Yeah.
I can't wait for the amount of comeuppance that's about to happen. Oh man.
Oh, happened.
Oh yeah.
Talk shitteth, get hitteth, as they say.
This is deed. These guys are fucking around, and next volume they're gonna find out. It's great.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
He had the air of a ruler and the power to tame any magical creature. He was also one of the foremost fighters in the Empire, leader of a proud band of warriors. In terms of strength, the commander was said to be the second best in the Empire. He wasn't in the single digits rank-wise, but his powers had quickly earned him a post leading a division.
See, the problem
Being in a position,
the problem is that they're judging everything based on their scale of power.
Yeah.
Which is mid at best.
Mm-hmm.
They have not done any proper fucking reconnaissance of their enemies.
They've done what? One scouting team, Ghidorah's team.
They haven't done anything.
Oh, I thought that was Ghidorah's team. The three who went venturing in the dungeon.
Yeah, but those three that
but that's like nothing.
Only shared information with Ghidorah.
Yeah, that's why I said.
Yeah.
That's it.
So...
That's it. And Ghidorah doesn't even know the full extent of what's going on.
No.
He just has the most knowledge.
He has the most knowledge, and he didn't share that knowledge with everyone else. Here's the thing. They don't know about the primals. They don't know how many primals are sitting there. They don't know about... Here's the thing. They greatly outnumber Rimuru's forces. It doesn't. It doesn't.
That's the
matter.
only advantage they seem to have.
It does not
They have
matter.
quantity, but not quality.
Dude,
Yep.
basically. Remember Falmouth? It was 20,000 to 1.
Yep. To 1.
How did that go?
Poorly, and some people got a massive sun laser through the head, from what I remember.
There were 3 goddamn survivors.
Yep.
And
Out of 20,000.
Out of 20.
Oh, 20,000.
Out of 20,000, there were 3 survivors, and it was
only because he let them.
And it was only because Rimuru let them, and then he blamed the whole fucking thing on Veldora, which is why everybody is underestimating Rimuru.
Because they're all focused on Veldora.
Because they all think that Veldora did it. Nope, Rimuru did it. Rimuru literally did it. He killed 20,000 people.
Veldora would be like 10 times that effectively, right? Just a snowball number.
Veldora would have sneezed and done that, and there would not have been any survivors.
Oh, with the 20? Yeah.
Yeah, there would not have been any survivors. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, he is very strong.
Please continue.
So, all good.
Continue. Yeah.
Being in a position untouchable by any ranking duel made him believe he was the strongest, and thus Gradim resented the Empire's marshal, the one person higher than him in the military hierarchy. Some rumors said he had lycanthrope blood in him, but none of these had been confirmed. Whether that was true or not, Gradim...
The marshal. That's the one you need to look out for. That is the second most powerful person in the entire Empire.
Has he spoken yet?
That is the Emperor's second in command. And I'm going to go ahead and spoil something for you right now. The Marshal is the fire dragon in Veldora's big sister.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's their ace in the hole.
That's their ace in the hole. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
For now.
So you know how Guy has the ice dragon that is Veldora's big sister? Well, the Emperor has the fire dragon that is Veldora's big sister. There are 4 true dragons.
4 Dagrons.
4 true dragons, and one of them died. That was Millam's dad, and Veldanava, the one who created
Yep.
the world and everything in it,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yep.
their oldest brother. And yeah, it's gonna be some interesting shit.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, the empire is fucking around right now, and boy, I can't wait for
Just
them to
because we're
find
an
out.
empire, makes you think you got the biggest dickus.
Yes.
The
It's
Holy
true.
Roman Empire. All right, anyway,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Our history makes
let's
us clearly by that default already. Our history proves it.
Mm-hmm.
Our dicks are the biggest.
Anyway,
Whether that was true or not, Gradim was definitely the type to act on gut instincts instead of reason,
mm-hmm.
and Ghidorah therefore had trouble dealing with him. Sir Gradim, I fear you are making an incorrect comparison. I am saying that we should make King Gazel our ally. Fool! If we were going to annex the Dwarven Kingdom as well, your point would make sense. If anyone gets in the way of the Empire's ambitions, all we would have to do is pound them into submission. But what kind of scheme is this? We have all the war power we need, and we still can't take action because of this tepid nonsense you're spouting at us. Don't be ridiculous. The Dwarven Kingdom is a natural fortress. The idea of taking it down by force is simply silence. Why must you continue your pathetic mewling in front of the Emperor? This is exactly why you were dismissed from your role as division leader. Gradim, the Beast King, shouted at the top of his lungs. He was telling the truth. Until about 30 years ago, the Ghidorah-led Magic Division was one of the 3 major ones the Empire boasted. Now, though, all its best talents were reassigned to technical departments, and the others shuffled into other posts. This was because magic, at the heart of it, depended on the talents of individual casters. First, you needed Magic Force to cast anything, and that wasn't something you could acquire in a class. That limited the numbers right there. Second, while magic was an effective tool in battle, the Empire had developed a weapon that all but supplanted it. A portable magic weapon, commonly known as a spell gun. Okay. These were powered by magistones that activated a magic circle carved inside the gun barrel, allowing anyone control over magic. A single spell gun could generate only one type of magic, which was a disadvantage, but their usefulness still couldn't be overstated. Meanwhile, for close-range combat, the Empire had developed magic sabers. These handheld weapons operated on the same principle as spell guns. They were small arms pre-installed with magic. The example they set was part of why Imperial military technicians could pinpoint what the dungeon-based slotted weapons were for. It was clear now that both sides of this conflict were thinking in similar ways. Now that even those without natural talent could cast magic, the role of the Magic Division was over. It was the end of an era, a melancholy moment for Ghidorah. But the scorn for Ghidorah wasn't over yet. Ha ha ha! You are well advanced in years, my lord. Your magic knowledge is the treasure of the Empire. You have given untold assistance to the Armored Division's development of new magical weapons. But as Sir Gradim stated, you're speaking out of line. Have you completely lost your nerve? Caligulio gave him a mocking laugh. Snickering bubbled up from the seats of the military in the House of Lords. Don't you understand? That evil dragon holds control over natural disasters. He is one of the most powerful presence in the entire world. You are the one who fails to understand, my lord. The Imperial military is not what it used to be. Mm-hmm. We have studied the knowledge of many from other worlds, the science they have brought over with them. Mm-hmm. We have obtained an entirely new and different technology from what this world knew before. And with this new technology, our army has grown dozens of times more powerful than the last generation. Sorcerers like you are anachronisms, failing to keep up with the march of time. It is time for you to accept His Majesty's good graces and humbly announce your retirement. What? Ghidorah fumed at this, but it was just an act. He had, after all, already capitulated to the Demon Lord Rimuru. He was trying to guide the council away from war, but beyond that, he didn't care much what came next. I pity every one of these buffoons. Science is a wondrous thing, but the sorceress dynasty of Thalion, Thalion has its own secret knowledge. Sorceress science, they call it. Sir Rimuru himself is an otherworlder, and the Empire may be kept secure by its military might. But for how long? Now that he knew the truth about Tempest and about Rimuru, victory for the Empire seemed very uncertain to Ghidorah. He didn't wish misfortune upon his former colleagues, and he felt a debt of obligation to the Empire, or the Emperor. That's why he made an honest effort to steer the Empire off its course, but if it failed, he wouldn't dwell on it. Yuki had a coup simmering anyway, and once it broke out, Ghidorah intended to keep the Emperor secure. He was sure Yuki wanted the Emperor assassinated, and if he planned to conquer the world, that all its leading figures were nothing but obstacles. Before now, he let him do what he wanted, but now he had no reason at all to wage war. Ghidorah could no longer allow Yuki's schemes to plunge the world into chaos. I can't say what'll happen in the future, but I doubt what I say here will change anything. Now, I suppose, I'll fulfill Sir Rimuru's request and build up more excitement for the dungeon. With that tacit decision, Ghidorah turned his eyes towards Yuki, who, up till now, hadn't said a word. Seeing Ghidorah fall silent, Caligulio assumed victory was his. Ghidorah's magic division was dismantled in the military's last major reshuffling. Since then, Ghidorah had been treated as a technical advisor for the armored division, an honorary post and nothing else, but he was widely known for his champion-level powers, and he may still have had more influence around the Empire than Caligulio himself. And it was Ghidorah, and Ghidorah alone, who recommended Yuki as a division leader. Simply infuriating. Caligulio didn't like it one bit. The great Ghidorah, lauded as a master sorcerer, was an old man, but his career was filled with meritorious deeds. He knew he couldn't afford to shed his politeness when dealing with him, but he's a relic of the past. Now he's nothing but a crotchety old man, a drain on all of us. Over time, the Empire had grown into a superpower in war, and as sad as it was, poor old Ghidorah simply couldn't keep up with that. The Empire was in a new era, and its 3 new military divisions were incomparably stronger than before. Some ellipses.
More dots.
The armored division. What?
No, I was just saying all the dots.
I'm literally just laughing at this man's mental folly.
These guys
Yeah, it's just like,
have
Just keep
all
reading,
the blood.
keep reading
Okay.
the next paragraph because you've only got 3 minutes left on
Oh,
your
yeah.
time.
Gotcha. The armored division Caligulio led was the largest military division in the Empire, driven by a combination of otherworld science and magical technology. Its force consisted of over 2 million deployable soldiers, but this included troops garrisoned across Imperial territory. Only about 1 million could engage in maneuvers on a moment's notice, but this was still an army on a stupefying scale, one unthinkable 100 years ago. The Magical Beast Division Gradim led was using DNA analysis technology brought by otherworlders to capture and raise magical beasts. The tame, powered-up creatures in this program produced now formed the core of this division. Nothing like this had ever been attempted before, but with such beasts, but this division made it happen. And thanks to their effort, the Empire could even train magical beasts as battle mounts. These were used by the Empire's greatest champions, those who analyzed the blood of ancient heroes and made it their own. These champions were innately powerful, and awakening the forces within their blood allowed the Magical Beast Division to recruit nothing but these champions. It was a comparatively small division, only around 30,000. Just 1 in 100,000 had this kind of talent, but their mounts were magical beasts, at least A- in quality, and when matched with the right champion, their power was incalculable. It was truly an elite force, worthy of being a full division despite its smaller size. Let's see. Finally, the composite division Yuki led was a group of talented individuals with extremely powerful latent abilities. The general public considered this division a hodgepodge of scrappy odds and ends lacking any real cooperative spirit, but that wasn't the right way to describe them. They didn't work well with others because they were already pretty omnipotent by themselves. As a band of exceptional, tough-to-control individuals, they had many talented otherworlders, their latent potential anybody's guess.
Keep going.
It was populated with irregular traits, things that couldn't be reproduced after extensive experimentation, difficult to handle, but packing more of a punch than an A-rank magical beast. They may not have known what their abilities were exactly, but as weapons, they were too good to dispose of, and this force was where such accomplished people were inserted. They had barely been supervised up to this point, but with Yuki as the division's new leader, it was reborn as a treasured force, one whose powers couldn't be defined by pure numbers. They totaled some 200,000 people, about half of whom were deployable. The rest were commissioned intelligence officers, office staff, and so forth. That, and within the composite division, was also a specially selected elite force, the foundation of the entire division, one absolutely faithful to Yuki.
Alrighty.
Yep.
Yep.
More ellipses.
Yep. This was the composition of the Empire's 3 new military divisions. It was a formidable power, and the moment the Emperor gave the edict, 1,130,000 soldiers would likely begin operations at once. According to the Imperial Information Bureau's latest intelligence, the Western nation's total fighting power was under 1 million troops. In terms of what was deployable right then, they'd likely be happy to gather 400,000. Even more encouraging, the IIB expressed doubts that this could act as a coherent force due to the expected logistical difficulties. It was thus an unruly mob of 400,000 against over 1,000,000 Imperial-trained elites. The numbers were simply overwhelming, and right at the core of this overwhelming Imperial force was Caligulio's armored division. Caligulio intended to bring his own hand-picked forces out on the field to handle this war. He planned to deploy 1,000,000 soldiers as follows. The restructured armored corps, the division's main force. The soldiers boasted the latest in otherworld technology and magical modifications as individuals, each one ranked at least a C+, and some even had reached A rank. The Magitank force, the most decisive weapons. This was a squadron of 3,000 Magitanks, the latest new Imperial weapon brought into practical use. Each one had a crew of 5, and they offered firepower that broke all previous rules. Their main armament, known as a Magicannon, could fire bolts that shot out at 2,000 yards per second. A Magitank could hold 50 of these bolts, firing them up to 5 times a minute, and they packed a punch, the equivalent of a tactical level high-speed flame spell. Although these bolts were launched with magic, fundamentally the shots themselves were simple metal balls. They could still smash through things like anti-magic barriers and anti-archery defenses, making them a fearsome mass-based offense. Thanks to that, the kind of force you once needed a wizard to unleash, assuming you could find one, was now on the beck and call of the common soldier. These Magitanks resulted in a major breakthrough for the army due to the difficulty of defending against them. 200,000 soldiers were assigned to this force, including mechanics and other personnel, and the more tanks you added, the more powerful it'd become. The Flying Combat Corps, responsible for a set of highly classified weapons. This consisted of 400 flying airships, the treasure of the Empire, and a testament to the grand new knowledge the Otherworlders brought with them. Each airship could house up to 400 people. A staff of 50 piloting them, while the rest handled defensive magic or operated the cannons. They were fitted with many magically amplified guns, making them warships bristling with offense and defense, and they were also useful as transportation craft. In this world, the concept of...
graduating from a Dave.
Oh, Matty Ice, thank you for the... Oh, no. I just saw Matty Ice there. Let's see. Apple Zero, thank you for the 5 gift subs.
So that is basically just getting
Thanks, man.
Yep.
Trophy.
Yeah, thank you.
Airships could also assist in surrounding an enemy on the front and rear, making pincer attacks child's play. Another invention that turned conventional attacks on their head. 100,000 people were assigned to this corps, mostly members taken from the old magic division.
Congratulations on graduating from a Dave. So that is basically just getting a participation trophy.
Okay, we got one more to go. I'm waiting on the subs to go through, the gift subs.
Oh.
Congratulations on graduating from a Dave. Though that is basically just getting a participation trophy.
All right, there we go. All right. 100,000 people were assigned to this corps, mostly members taken from the old magic division. With this many soldiers at his beck and call, Caligulio was basking in a feeling of omnipotence. For example, the average strength of a knight in this world would be around C rank at best, although it varied depending on the size of a nation. Pad that strength with weapons or armor and put them through grueling training, and you might see that brought up to a B. Meanwhile, the armored division put its members through assorted magical modifications. After a health evaluation, anyone deemed fit enough for it was half forced into the operation. This successfully lifted the baseline for the entire division, and that was true for the forces stationed elsewhere across the Empire. They were like an insurmountable rock. Caligulio was sure of it. For this grand campaign, he planned to deploy all the Magitanks and airships at his disposal. He had enough soldiers to overwhelm any force alliance, or any foreign alliance, in quality and quantity. And he had so many new weapons to unveil. As he saw it, the armored division was the best way of showing the full might of the Empire to the world. Why worry about Veldora? Why worry about a demon lord? My division alone could conquer the whole world. Yeah, again, it comes down to reconnaissance and intelligence.
Fancy toys, and I believe my dick's the biggest.
Yep.
Let me go to war.
Again,
Yep.
Once again, the one who has the battle of information, the one who wins the battle of information wins the war. Rimuru
Yes.
has satellite surveillance.
Yes. And nukes.
Boy is getting real-time information and updates to his bunker.
You
he's
guys still. The
sorry.
Empire has tanks, but they still rely on word of mouth.
Yeah.
Further news.
They still
Yeah,
need.
right.
They still need.
They still need the riders.
They still need line of sight, and they still need like people to go and like they don't have radio
They need
communication.
runners. Yeah.
They can't do radio communication. They need runners. Rimuru don't need any of that. They can literally do telepathic communication.
You feel like having tanks
and teleportation.
magical tanks.
And teleportation.
That they at least have like some kind of radio communication
and
network. No, they don't have that.
literally he has people that can throw nuclear magic around like it's nothing.
Yep. They're boned.
They are horribly outmatched.
It's going to be a lot of fancy Smash toys later.
All right.
It's like, oh, the tanks sound really amazing.
It
but
was-
can they fire nukes?
It was that confidence that Caligulio observed Ghidorah. That was why he noticed the sorcerer's eyes shifting over to Yuki. And the next moment, Yuki spoke up for the first time in this Imperial Council, as if he'd been waiting for the opportunity. I agree that old man Ghidorah is overly careful. I think he's just being too wary. And I'm counting the Storm Dragon when I say that too. Like Commander Caligulio said, the Empire as it stands now wouldn't have a problem against him, don't you think? The fact that Yuki seemed to agree with Caligulio put him on alert. That bastard. He's gonna nominate himself to capture the labyrinth, isn't he? You may think I'm not on to you, but you're wrong. You can't hold a post as lofty as division commander without keeping yourself well informed. As Caligulio thought this, he flashed Yuki a friendly smile. Gradim was an exception to that rule, but really, it was only his scale-breaking strength that put him at the top of his division. Yuki, meanwhile, was Caligulio's enemy from the start. The post was far too lofty for him still, he believed. Well put, Sir Yuki, he said, biting his tongue. A young, energetic leader knows how to build momentum for himself, I see.
Sounds like someone
shit.
could benefit from some
Apple
of
Zero
the
is now following. So after 5 gift subs, you drop a follow.
Wait, do the
Yeah,
okay,
thank you.
that's weird.
That's backwards.
Yeah,
welcome aboard.
That's so backwards.
You're doing it wrong, Apple.
Hey, you're scaring him.
Oh man, that's
Be
great.
nice
I
to
love
him.
Me
it.
or the Apple?
Or
I can't
her.
tell.
That's
Yeah.
so backwards.
You.
I love it.
Yeah. You're scaring them.
That's so backwards. I love it. Also, thanks for the 200 biddies. We
Yeah, thank
appreciate
you.
it. That's so good.
Compilation.
I love it. 5 gift subs. 5 gift subs and then a follow.
200.
Yes.
Then the follow in that order.
And then the bitches. All right. So anyway,
You're doing it wrong. It's like no, Apple's unlocked the hidden code.
Apple's
You know, it's
unlocked
like
the hidden code. Yeah, man. All
it's
right,
like you
so
do the
yes.
follow after everything else, and that's when he
yes.
has the streamers.
All right, he's gonna blah blah blah. Where was I? Before
Apples.
Well
Apples
put,
to
Sir
oranges.
Yuki.
No, I'd already gotten there. I'm
Oh,
no one that
no one
special.
I
that's
am no one
special.
special.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm no one that special. But the way I see it, we still have some scout work to do before we can run a war, right? If we want to make it through the Forest of Jura, we're going to need to proceed through the Demon Lord Rimuru's domain. And along those lines, actually, I have some interesting news. Apparently the Demon Lord's city can be transported completely inside the labyrinth. The labyrinth? Caligulio asked, feigning ignorance. Yeah, replied Yuki, as if expecting this. The dungeon, to be precise. I don't know how it works, but it allows them to make the entire city disappear from the surface, leaving nothing but a large gate. Humph, how absurd. Now I'm sure he's going to volunteer to go explore the dungeon himself and steal away all my interest. It is so terribly shallow of him. Oh? Caligulio gave Yuki a gloating smile. Are you sure about that intelligence? If it's true, said another member of the council, we cannot ignore this dungeon. They may emerge from it to attack us once we march past. Indeed, assuming the Empire is no fool, I'm sure they're shoring up their defense lines as we speak. If the Demon Lord's forces cut off our supply lines, we'll be in trouble. That could make the Forest of Jura route dangerous. Everyone who heard Yuki began giving out a smorgasbord of feedback. Yuki grinned as if this was exactly what he'd been seeking all along. There's no doubting the credibility of this intelligence, no. Old man Ghidorah went over there himself and examined it for us. He had waited for just the right moment to say that, but he wasn't done yet. Now, the things old man Ghidorah saw have convinced him that the Demon Lord Rimuru is a threat, and he also brought back another rumor. It's said that the labyrinth goes down 100 floors, and that the guardian of the deepest floor is none other than Veldora, the storm dragon. Now, there's no evidence backing this rumor at all. Ghidorah's investigations ended on the 60th floor after his team sadly took some losses. It's said not even Masayuki the hero has made it past that floor. In terms of difficulty, we believe it would rank at A+ equivalent, and no matter what route we take to invade the West, I think this requires further investigation. Now Yuki was sounding serious, doing away with his carefree attitude. Losses? Quite a pity. I can understand Sir Yuki's feelings. An investigation certainly wouldn't be uncalled for. Perhaps we could leave that to the composite division. The nobles excitedly talked among themselves. It rankled Caligulio. You fools were all bought off by him. How dare you try to talk your way into this? Yuki! You should have become a politician, not an army commander. But the sincerity of Yuki's attitude was even starting to turn the minds of the nobles he didn't bribe. It only further provoked Caligulio. "One moment, please," he shouted as he stood up and bowed to the Emperor behind the blind. "Your Highness, Lord Ghidorah and Sir Yuki seem absolutely petrified of Veldora. But not I, and that goes without saying from the Western nations as well. It is my fervent hope that I may soothe your mind, Your Majesty, so please give me, Caligulio, the order to begin our conquest. I promise to you, I will stake my body and soul in the ensuing battle." Check and mate.
Well,
Yep.
goodbye.
Goodbye to that guy.
Yep.
The
See
statement
ya.
sent a shiver through the chamber. Addressing the Emperor directly was far beyond the realms of convention. "What? Of all the outrageous things to do, this will not stand, Sir Caligulio! Or Caligulio. Trying to get a leg up on the competition, Caligulio? Your Majesty, our Magical Beast Division is ready to deploy on a moment's notice. Please grant us your order as well." Even Gradim was entering the fray. "In that case," a frazzled-looking Yuki added, "allow the Composite Division to investigate this." With him standing up as well, all three commanders were bowing their heads at once. At this point, only the Emperor could put an end to this commotion. Him, or one other. This figure stood up behind the blind and smiled sweetly. She was the Imperial Marshal, the supreme commander of the Empire's forces. "All right, you idiots, quiet down. You are in the presence of Emperor Ludora." Calling the Emperor by his given name was an affront no common citizen could dream of. Only someone granted the rank of Marshal could do so without fear of consequences. In the Empire, being Marshal meant being the strongest. Only a very few close associates knew who she was. Not even the rank holder's name was revealed to the public. It was said she was always attending to the Emperor, protecting him. A few words from her were all it took to silence the meeting hall. Now, as everyone in attendance fell to the ground to pay their respects, the Marshal's voice boomed from high above. "So what of this Veldora? He may have interfered with our previous campaign, but did that shake the Empire? No! Of course not! And that is because our great Emperor has afforded us his divine protection." "Yes, ma'am!" It was beyond overpowering. An air of dominance filled the room, leaving everyone powerless to resist it. And in the midst of it, the marshal asked, "Yuki, was it? You have been in the Empire for not even a year, and I must praise your achievements. However, you are soft. Too soft. From the moment Veldora resurrected himself until now, the Empire has not taken any action. Do you know why? Because we were not fully prepared. This was already well-trodden territory." But Yuki gave the answer anyway, but the marshal answered him with a scornful smile. "No. It's because the idiots among us were so stricken by fear of the past, they made up this or that excuse to run away. Isn't that right, Ghidorah?" Indeed it is." Everyone, deep down, knew that to be true, and not even Ghidorah had the willpower to say no. It was true. He had argued for avoiding battle instead of debating whether they could beat the Storm Dragon. He had no leg to stand on. But what is this? Why is she, of all people, in such a panic? Ghidorah was one of the few people who had seen the marshal's face. That's why he could tell, despite her detached air, that she was growing impatient. But he couldn't bring it up here. Instead, Ghidorah felt a vague anxiety, one whose reason he couldn't put into words, as the marshal continued. "There's no way negotiations with King Gazel or Dworgen would go well, is there? I'm sure you understand that. So why be so stubborn about it? Or are all of you more idiotic than I thought? You're not trying to interfere with the Empire's dominance, are you?" The cold voice made Ghidorah's spine freeze. Has she spotted me out? He couldn't believe it. He was a senior member of the Empire, one who served as counsel for the Emperor. But even he found himself cringing in the presence of the marshal. And come to think of it, I still don't even know her name. Ghidorah was trusted. He was treasured. There was no doubt about that. But maybe that was all just Ghidorah kidding himself. The thought felt like a shockwave, and then, for the first time, he began to wonder what the Empire, or really the Emperor, actually was. Turning away from him, the marshal set his sights on Caligulio. "So, Caligulio, you like your chances of victory?" Yes, Marshal, I absolutely do." "Ah, then tell us about your strategy." Well, he was in high spirits earlier, but the full brunt of the marshal's dominant presence bowled Caligulio over. His plan to bulldoze the enemy with sheer quantity, it made him realize, seemed so childish now. Caligulio did have his own plan for the fight against the Storm Dragon, an intricate plan he had carefully worked out over the course of many years. He wasn't afraid of Veldora. He's just a dragon, he thought, and yes, the dragons of the Kanat Mountains were tough monsters to face. The lesser dragon at the foot of the peaks were one thing, but once they had grown into full-fledged adult specimens, they ranked at least an A in strength. Once you got into an element-infused archdragon, that was dangerous enough to upend a small kingdom. Not so with the Empire. All they'd have to do is to deploy a force of 500 from the restructured Armor Corps, and they could subdue him. They had undergone repeated military training for just this mission, and as long as they didn't make any mistakes, they wouldn't lose too many men. That, if anything, proved the Empire's power. If they had the strength to raise tens of thousands of these fighters, they could beat a whole flock of dragons. As far as Caligulio was concerned, Veldora was just another dragon. Why, he concluded, are we so afraid of a single dragon? That's because he is not just a dragon. Bro, you are already sweating in front of the marshal.
Yeah.
The marshal.
Who is this?
This is the
Who is
person
literally his sister.
Like,
bro, you can't handle the marshal, you can't handle Veldora.
This is the exact equivalent of like everything leading up in John Wick, where the guy was like, "Oh, it's just one guy. You know, how hard can it be? There's like 50 billion of us." And
I
like,
saw him kill 50 people with a pencil.
With a
fucking pencil.
right?
Pencil. Yeah. Yeah. This is exactly what's happening.
Pits, and then you go into the whole terrorizer
Yeah,
bit
yeah.
with it.
Yes. Yes.
A fucking pizza.
A pencil. Like, goddamn, dude.
Yes.
Pizza.
All right.
Mm.
Yeah, it's just calling him a dragon is kind of an insult. Exactly, Matty Ice. Exactly.
He's more than that.
Imagine that dragon, but he wielded a pencil as a weapon.
He stabbed him in the dick with a pencil. Like, goddamn.
And everyone's here showing off some pretty big dickage, too.
All right. Anyway,
Except for the Marshal, for
All
obvious
right.
reasons.
Yeah.
this was this. All right. So anyway, a monster's strength was defined by the size of its magicule store. That remained true no matter how powerful one was. Dragons were so strong because their magical energy was as enormous as their physical mass. They had high defense and breath attacks that pummeled a wide range, both requiring a massive amount of magicules. So why fight them from the front in the first place? No. Caligulio and his force had a secret plan, a new technology, a magicule disturbing beam known as a magic canceller that had been developed under strict confidentiality. Magic-based weakening attacks occasionally didn't work on dragons. Some of them could annul any such attempt with magic interference. With this new tech, that didn't matter. A magic canceller beam interfered with the magicules themselves, not controlling them, but scattering them in wild, unpredictable patterns, making them essentially go haywire. Applied to a sorcerer, it'd jam his spell and keep him from invoking the magic. Against a monster, it'd scramble its magicule-based body and impede their movements. It'd not only weaken them, but maybe even neutralize them entirely. This would be particularly effective against someone like Veldora, essentially a huge blob of magical energy. It was the source of Caligulio's unflappable confidence. What's more, they had a second card to play, their Magitanks. The magic cannons attached to them were essentially capable of dispatching even a large magical beast in one hit. Yeah, that was just typed very.
That's a
intensely
weird way to-
powerful.
Cannons attached to them were
not
intensely
essentially
powerful. Capable of
intensely,
dispatching even
not
others.
essentially.
Yeah.
Sorry, I got the word
Yeah,
wrong.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. After some experiments conducted with a captured live dragon, they found that a magic cannon blast could even kill a full-grown A-rank specimen instantly. Finally, there was the wild card, the airships, their secret weapon and the crown jewel of their magical technology. They could travel at will beyond the speed of sound. No living creature could hope to outrun them. Sure. Caligulio's strategy from Veldora was as follows. First, his quickest forces would lure Veldora within range of a magic canceller set up in the forest. This would bind him in place and add to the barrage. They'd eradicate him from another magic canceller installed on an airship put on standby above. Once Veldora was weakened to a state of helplessness, a battalion of 2,000 Magitanks would launch a simultaneous magic cannon volley, and any dragon, no matter how ancient, would surely be vaporized by that. And should he somehow survive, well, even a true dragon wouldn't emerge unscathed. In a war, a force calculated their chances of victory based on the intelligence they had accumulated. They had killed a large number of dragons by this point, using the data they gathered to fully prepare themselves. It made Caligulio absolutely sure of victory, and yet, as he addressed the marshal, his tongue suddenly felt heavy in his mouth. So, we would deploy a tank battalion, and then we'd lure the evil dragon into position, you see. Sheer numbers, he thought, would win the day for him, so he planned to work out the more tactical details once they arrived on site. The tanks could navigate even the worst of roads, and he had word of a highway built between there and the Dwarven Kingdom, one large enough to make tank transportation a breeze. He therefore concluded that tank deployment wouldn't be an issue, but facing the marshal, he couldn't just make up his facts. I was so focused on building up our war power that I neglected our on-site investigations. This was my failure. At least he still had enough of his senses left to work that out. How worthless. Besides, your entire concept is wrong on its head. Once you destroy Veldora, what next? What? Caligulio replied, unable to grasp her meaning. The marshal looked down on him coldly. Why do you think the Empire never made a move while Veldora was sealed away? Because we were unprepared? Wrong answer, you fool. We were waiting for his revival so we could settle matters with him in his complete state. Now we can expose him to the full glory of his majesty. So what will we do if we destroy him? Only through defeating and ruling over him will the Empire secure its victory. Her words overwhelmed the entire meeting hall. Everyone was dominated by a sense of terror or doom, as if someone had grabbed their hearts and wouldn't let go. Ghidorah was just as shaken by it. No. Is she serious? After all the time I spent explaining that mentally dominating him was impossible, but somehow the marshal's words were convincing. Something about them made you feel that maybe, just maybe, it was possible. The feeling gave Ghidorah the taste of an inscrutable sort of horror. Yes, looking back, it's so strange. Who is the marshal anyway? I've met her in real life, but I never even questioned why I don't know her name. Could this be? A certain truth was beginning to dawn on Ghidorah. No matter how much he wanted to will it away, now he wondered if the marshal was capable of dominating someone's mind better than anyone else, even he, the greatest sorcerer the Empire had ever knew. In fact, he no longer wondered it. He was sure. Ghidorah opened his eyes, turning them toward the other side of the blind. She was a graceful silhouette, as seen through the expensive silk-woven curtain, but to Ghidorah it looked like a monster beyond imagination. In a way, it was like a true dragon had taken human form, a delusion that Ghidorah hurriedly wiped from his mind. The entire council was frozen, holding its breath. In that case, I'd like to offer a proposal. The voice of young Yuki echoed. Being able to speak at all in these conditions was a praiseworthy feat of will. Proceed, a gentle yet frigid voice replied. Here we go. Yuki bowed, keeping his innermost thoughts hidden. I don't think right now is a good time for our military divisions to try outmaneuvering each other, so I will speak frankly and without reserve. Without preface, the meek-looking Yuki outlined his plan. First, the armored division would stage an invasion from the forest of Jura in front of them. The Demon Lord Rimuru's military forces were gathering on a spot where the forest crossed the Great Ameld River. They were using a lodging town there as their base of operations, building up their war preparedness. The Imperial force would advance down a path between the Knat Mountains and forest of Jura. This was because there was no paths through the forest's east side, so going through there would take too much time. Once the Empire reached the main entrance to the Dwarven Kingdom and followed the Ameld south, they'd reach this lodging town and hostilities would officially begin then. But there was a problem. Wait, Sir Yuki, we have to go through the forest or else we'll draw Dworgen's attention. King Gazel and Rimuru reportedly have friendly relations and the two countries have signed on to an alliance. If we do something like that, we'll be subject to a pincer strike at once. Caligulio's statement was a valid one. Part of the motivation for tackling the forest instead of following the highway along the Ameld was to avoid hostilities with the Dwarven Kingdom. What if Dwarven forces came to reinforce Rimuru after battle began? They had already decided that their supply lines couldn't be allowed to get cut off. But in this case, they'd be stuck between the forest and the river. If they sustained attacks on both sides there, their numerical advantage would be lost. Even with airships, they'd have to form entire fleets to keep such a force supplied. That was why Caligulio couldn't let his suggestions go unchallenged, but Yuki just smiled like he saw it coming. Don't worry, Sir Caligulio. We're not aiming for the lodging town. We're aiming for the Dwarven Kingdom. If King Gazel won't listen to our offer, then we can't really call him a friendly nation, can we? There's no reason to leave them around. What? Yuki left Caligulio at a loss for words. The entire council stirred. You want us to attack the armed nation of Dworgen? I'm sure we could win, but who knows how many casualties we'd face.
we'd have nothing left to strike the west with. There's a natural fortress protecting it after all. All the participants exchanged opinions. It just made Yuki broaden his smile. That's right. The nation's like a fortress. It's so well suited for defense. People thought of it as impregnable until now. But you know we've got tanks, right? Dworgen's been so tough to attack because it's so heavily geared toward magic defense. If we can deal with that, the rest is easy, isn't it? Caligulio had to admit Yuki had a point. Assuming they attacked the Dwarven kingdom, they'd have to strike the east or central entrances. If they wanted to catch them by surprise, they'd have to skip the east on the border with the Empire and attack the central gate, which exited into the Forest of Jura. If they could pose themselves as hitting Rimuru's lodging town, then roll the tanks up to the central gate, it'd block any Dwarven reinforcements while simultaneously securing the lodging town for them. I see. That might be a pretty interesting approach, right? And if the dwarves are in trouble, then Lord Rimuru will kind of have to get moving. But we'd have the initiative, and if we set up the battlefield so we could ambush them, it'd give our forces the advantage. Yes! Caligulio nodded. It sounded doable. It's probably going to be their advanced force stationed at the lodging town, but in the forest, they're still going to have an advantage, and we're going to take more losses. But if we take down the Dwarven Kingdom first, then that natural fortress would help keep us defended. There was some deception to Yuki's pitch. If they were really going to volley some magic cannon blasts around, the first shot would likely destroy the central gate. Even if the dwarves fled down into the maze-like cave corridors, the urban area near the entrance would suffer untold damage. Maybe they'd absorb and rebuild the nation in the future, but it'd be rendered unusable during this war. Caligulio spotted that, but he decided to put up with Yuki's cajolery anyway. I'm not sure it'll go that well, but you do bring up some good points. Certainly it'd be more uplifting for us if we set a trap and annihilated them all at once rather than chase them like mice across that accursed forest. After that, we can take our time advancing everyone toward the Tempestian capital. Well, before that, there's more to my plan. My composite division, as everybody here knows, is more suited for individual one-on-one battle rather than group ops. I'm thinking you know this as, this is the best force you could ask for to investigate that dungeon for us. Like we said, rumor has it that Veldora's guarding the place from the 100th floor. We need to check out that story, don't we? Ah, thought Caligulio with a secret chuckle. That's his approach. He didn't believe Yuki would give up his claim that easily, so this request was predictable enough. No need for that, I don't think. If your division ignores the lodging town and travels straight for the monster capital, that'll open up the danger of a pincer attack. No, it's better to allow our force to advance westward and navigate the pathless forest all the way to the dungeon. I'm never going to believe they can make an entire city vanish until I see it for myself. It'd be more tactically sound to assume the Demon Lord will be waiting there with his main force. Yuki, faced with this, scowled for just a brief moment. Caligulio was perceptive enough to notice it. So naive still. Don't get full of yourself, kid. You can't always get what you want. But as he basked in this joy, finally, this is turning into a decent military conference. Very well. You seem confident enough, Caligulio. I'll let you handle the Demon Lord. And with that brief statement from the Marshal, the Armored Division's invasion of the Forest of Jura had been approved. And just like that, Ghidorah, Yuki, and Rimuru have tied the noose around the Empire's neck.
Yep. Just.
But she wasn't done. However, this is still too weak an approach. If we're attacking Dworgen, better to apply pressure to the East Gate as well. I'll leave that responsibility to the Composite Division, Commander. Commander, I want you to consider your division's formation carefully, as you'll still be handling capital defense as well. Yes, Marshal. Yuki considered objecting for a moment, but stopped himself. By the sound of the Marshal's voice, he realized this was an order set in stone. Instead, Gradim, the last remaining commander, spoke. Please, wait just one moment. You asking the Magical Beast Division to stay put, then? I promise you, We could play a starring role in the engagement, so please. Gradim looked almost grief-stricken as he raised his voice toward the silk blind. If he was ordered to remain on standby for this operation, the Magical Beast Division, already small in size, would have nothing to do the entire war. Everything would be covered, and Gradim would have no chance to earn any achievements in battle. A tragedy he'd do anything to prevent. Settle down, you idiot. I have a role for you as well. You do? And what role is that? Take the entire Magical Beast Division and advance northward. Gradim had braced himself so much for the Marshal's answer that it literally shocked him. It was just really unexpected. Reburu and King Gazel were focused on defending their own nations. In the midst of this, they would stage an invasion on 2 fronts and scare the Western nations out of their wits when they weren't paying attention. This would let them establish a beachhead quickly in the region before the Council of the West could react. But northward? You want us to cut across the Kanat Mountains? Gradim surmised the intent behind the Marshal's instructions. Was deeply shaken. The logic, at least, made sense. Now they'd be deploying in 3 directions, not 2. But the Empire had the power to pull this off. Yet this operation presented some serious tactical challenges. In fact, traversing the Kanat Mountains with a 5-figure force would make any soldier doubt the sanity of their leader. But as he hesitated over voicing his concerns, the Marshal began laughing. That's right, Gradim. I want you to navigate over the sea and attack the capital of Inglacia. The kingdom of Farminus is still rebuilding. Once Dworgen falls, we can crush it any time we like. What? The sea? But we don't have any large transportation vessels. Of course we do. Don't we, Caligulio? Being called by name like this, Caligulio knew he couldn't stall any longer. He resented not being identified by his rank, but now was no time to lodge complaints about decorum. That was how overpowering and coercive the Marshal was. I think you're right, Marshal. We have the airships developed by our force using the latest in technology. They are run by our Flying Combat Corps, and it'd be possible for them to transport the Magical Beast Division, I believe. Excitement spread across the council at Caligulio's response. There was a way to attack the west without running through the forest of Jura all along. Anyone in the Empire would be overjoyed at the news. However, we need airships as our deciding factor in the battle against the Storm Dragon. Thus, we can offer little more than transport. But is that enough? Caligulio was talking to Gradim. He figured that he'd retain 100 of his airships, all armed to the teeth. The remaining 300 vessels would carry upward of 100,000 troops. Each one could bear a maximum of 400, and once you subtracted the 50 crewmen, that allowed for 350 soldiers per ship. The Magical Beast Division consisted of 30,000 champions, each with their respective mount, along with their support staff. Even with their required supplies, 300 airships would be an ample number to carry them all. The ships wouldn't have much fighting power, but transporting the Magical Beast Division was easy enough, so Caligulio nimbly drew a line in the sand and thrust the offer in Gradim's face. Gradim, understanding this, groaned a bit as he sank into thought. It would be an honor for any fighting man to have a chance to fight Rimuru or the Storm Dragon. Letting this honor slip through his fingers seemed like a waste, but the strategy the Marshal offered had quite a few attractions of its own. It was a blitzkrieg operation, the kind that destroyed any preconceived concepts about this war, and with the Western nations asleep at the wheel, they'd have nothing to resist Gradim's Magical Beast Division with. Success was practically guaranteed. It all seemed to fit together. Most of all, the West reportedly had a group of champions known as the Crusaders. Each one was a stout fighter, but together they were rumored to be among the strongest out of there in group battle. They were complemented by the Master Rooks, also said to be a menace on the battlefield, and the Holy Empire of Lubelius also retained Hinata Sakaguchi, chief knight of the Master Rooks, and leader of the Crusaders. She was the strongest knight in the West. Her name known all the way over in the Empire, and some tales claimed she fought Rimuru to a draw recently. If it was merely a draw, then their strongest of knights was both a coward and no match for Gradim. He was ready to lay waste to her platoon of champions, then trample all over their holy city. Already he could feel his beast blood surge within him. "Very well," the Beast King barked. "Give us safe passage to the battleground, and we'll gladly carry out this operation." Excitement bubbled up further across the chamber. "We can win this! I know we can! Victory to us! Victory to the Empire! Hail to His Majesty the Emperor!" Already they were drunk with jubilation, visions of glorious success dancing in their minds. Caligulio was ready to excite them even further with a reciprocal promise to Gradim. "A sea route would keep us from the threat of dragons," he said. "You will have nothing to worry about. Leave the navigation to us." This, too, was part of the plan, Caligulio considered. Based on the average flight range of a dragon, a sea path would keep them far away from the dragon's nest territory. They'd also be protected from the nefarious sea creatures that infested the sea, offering a relatively safe passage to the west. On the other hand, there'd be no way to team them up with a tank force, so Caligulio thought it was too early to offer the plan as a potential option. Thanks to that, however, he had already done his homework on the idea, and while he didn't expect it to be a factor like this, he found himself looking forward to it. Very interesting. We'd bring the Magical Beast Division over on airships, then concentrate entirely on support and supplying. That's how we'd make it look, but perhaps we can make off with all the spoils too, and having such a large force up north is bound to surprise the Western nations' forces. They'll be rudderless, helpless, with no chain of command and no way to reinforce the Demon Lord Ribaru. The Western nations, with attention focused sorely on the forest of Jura, would find itself pinned down on multiple fronts. That would make Caligulio's strategy work all the more smoothly. That, he thought, would let him focus on the dungeon and the Storm Dragon, letting him put in even bigger results than before. "Do we have any problems with this?" "None, Marshal. I will work with Sir Gradim to prepare a workable strategy." Yes. If we can reach there safely, I promise we'll fight to the best of our abilities." "Okay. In that case, I'll give the Dwarven King the best show of force we can offer, I guess. Once battle breaks out around the central gate, that'll likely bring things around the east gate to a standstill, but the dwarves may lose their minds and attack us, you think?" "Yeah, I'm aware." Even when addressing the Marshal, Yuki could never let go of his trademark sass. Everybody in the chamber, including his fellow commanders, gave him an odd look. Is he oblivious to her eyes? To their eyes?
Oh, is he oblivious? Their eyes asked.
Their eyes asked. Or merely a fool.
Yeah.
Sorry, my bookmark kind of fell
okay.
away, and that distracted me because I'm only we're only a few pages away from the end of this chapter. That's how quickly
the
we're
question
getting
is,
through
can
this.
you beat it before you get your reminder to take your meds? Take your pills.
Well, I've got 15 minutes, so it's possible.
Yep. He reads fast, too. You underestimate his power.
You underestimate my...
Alright, Yuki paid it no mind. Very well. In that case, begin preparations at once. Yes, Marshal! The order was placed. Without Emperor Ludorus stating a single word, the Empire decided to embark on a simultaneous three-pronged invasion. The imperial edict made in the Emperor's name came down later that day. Now the whole Empire was feverish with enthusiasm. After a yawning period of obscurity, the time had come to display their mettle in war.
I like to think he was just asleep behind the curtain. Sorry. Like, he didn't say anything, but it was because he was asleep.
After the Imperial
You know,
Council ended, Yuki breathed a sigh of relief. The Marshal had never spoken at any of their conferences before, but today she took an oddly proactive approach. This would require more than a few changes to Yuki's plans, but it's no big deal. My army's going to get to deploy pretty close to the Imperial capital like I planned for. The Armored Division, the biggest thing in my way, is mostly going to be invading the Forest of Jura. I didn't expect the Magical Beast Division to get sent out. I have to I still have Vega undercover in there. I wonder if the composite division is enough to make this coup work. His original plans called for Vega to be the primary force behind the coup, and Yuki's patsy as well, taking all the criminal blame should things fall apart. Yuki's force, of course, would be providing clandestine support, or really, Vega would provide a conspicuous diversion while Yuki did all the heavy lifting. That plan would need to be scrapped, but Yuki reasoned that the general outline could still hold. He figured that fool Caligulio would step up for him, and it looked like he would. Caligulio was more a loyal military man than a born fighter. He was good in a scuffle, but he was too focused on strategy and finding a way to sure victory. He didn't like going on adventures, but he was still greedy. Sometimes, if a prize was worth his time to work for, he wouldn't be afraid to take some losses for it. Basically, all he needed was a reason. Tempest had lots of money as well as a new technology to be stolen. Just tell him it's all hidden in a dungeon and he'd do the rest. Of course, being that obvious with him would lead to doubts, so instead, he just needed to make Caligulio think he wanted his hands on it. Fortunately for him, all the items and intel Ghidorah brought him allowed Yuki to make Caligulio do his bidding. Still, though, why are you looking so serious? Yuki asked Ghidorah, currently sitting across from him. Well, the Marshal, you know. The Marshal? Yes. She almost seemed in panic. I was wondering if there was some reason for it. In a panic? She didn't look that way to me. It appeared rather a trivial reason for Ghidorah's brooding. It wasn't much of anything to worry about, Yuki thought, but something about her must have given Ghidorah concern. But, yeah, I was thinking this during the council too, but she's a real monster, isn't she? I mean, if I run into someone I don't know I can beat until I try fighting him, that says a lot, you know? Yuki could gauge the strength of most opponents without having to battle them. With the ultimate skill he had awoken to, he could even identify any abilities other people were trying to hide. If a target wouldn't let him do that, it went without saying how dangerous that could be. A new marshal is appointed every time a new generation of Emperor Ludorah's family takes the throne, Ghidorah explained. In this generation, just like the last one, and the one before it, the marshal always sits by the emperor protecting him. They're named to the role because they, too, have the power needed to stand at the peak of the empire. But despite that, there has never been any record of a marshal speaking out loud on military matters. So why? The clear danger the marshal presented was a miscalculation on Yuki's part. But this, too, fell within his assumptions. After all, the Demon Lord Guy Crimson, the most powerful of Demon Lords, seemed to have his own history with the Empire. It didn't take someone like Yuki to realize that something was up with them. Why was someone as strong as Guy Crimson leaving the Empire alone? What reason would such an arrogant Demon Lord have for sitting on his hands? The answer, Yuki thought, was that he was wary of someone in the Empire, and if that someone was the Marshal, he was fully willing to believe that possibility. Besides, if this war gets big enough to really upend things, that's going to lead to some pretty huge events, and maybe I'll get more insight into this stuff that's still hidden around here. Yuki smiled, trying to stave off his excitement for the future events he pictured. Ghidorah just sighed in response, but he couldn't sit there moping all day, so he decided to turn the page and discuss future plans. Well, Yuki, things are going as planned with me. I now have no reason to take revenge against the West. Though, so I was hoping to avoid war, but no chance you're going to get your way in that council, though. Not after how much you fanned the flames. Indeed, I certainly can't deny that. Ghidorah was generally a pretty self-centered man, not the kind to care much about advice given to him. If he and his beloved friends were safe, he wasn't concerned about anything else. He might have been a master sorcerer, but he was no god. He never boasted about how omnipotent he was, and he drew a line between what he could and couldn't do. That was why, as his last service to the Empire, he advocated against entering into war. Demon lords were said to be the enemy of humankind. They were absolute despots, and it was best to never rile them. Ghidorah didn't, and that was how he made contact with the late Demon Lord Clayman, and through him he eventually made friends with Yuki. It all stemmed from how single-minded he was about destroying Luminism, and the West along with it. He wasn't wrong to take this approach. Demon lords were allowed large, bountiful holdings, so they wouldn't foster ambitions for other nations' territories. None of it meant much any longer, but that was why Ghidorah wanted to stop the Empire from proceeding any further down this mistaken path. Besides, he had met the Demon Lord Rimuru himself, and had a very gentle personality. Working alongside him seemed like the smartest approach, and Adelman, his friend living over there, and Tempest, well, he looked completely different now in his afterlife, but he seemed to be enjoying himself. The biggest surprise to Ghidorah was this nation's fighting power. Even Adelman, who Ghidorah pinned as close to himself in strength, was just guarding floor 60 of the dungeon. Apparently, he had earned a promotion to floor 70, but it just showed how many more people were above him, and that wasn't even counting the officials and aides who served Rimuru. You'd have to be a fool among fools to fight that nation. Ghidorah was sure of that, and that's why he believed the Empire was going to be trounced in this war. He didn't know that what Shinji's band thought, but in Rimuru, Ghidorah sensed something he just couldn't get to the bottom of. That's what inspired him to plead against this war so ardently. His efforts didn't pay off, but at least he lived up to his end of the bargain with Rimuru. He successfully turned the Empire's attention toward the dungeon, and now it was time to figure out what he'd personally do. I no longer care much about what happens to those who didn't heed my advice. After my final audience with His Majesty, I intend to travel right over to the land of monsters. That's a pretty frank way to announce your betrayal. It's not a betrayal. I simply live the way I want to. And this is not goodbye for us, Yuki. Should you ever run into trouble, you can always rely upon me. Ghidorah was a selfish man, but he was kind to those close to him. He seemed to like Yuki, and he made that clear now. Well, I'll be sure to, Yuki nodded, snickering to himself. Yes, but still, I'll be the new man in that nation, so I will have to build my trust among its people. So don't expect to start exploiting me anytime soon now. Ah, you're so mean. That's kind of better left unsaid, isn't it? Oh, come now. Someone as brash as you needs it spelled out for him. And speaking of brash, I'd like you to give my regards to those jesters, too. Are they out scheming somewhere right now? Yeah, pretty much. Can't tell you where, though, because I think Rimuru would find out if I did. Maybe so, yes. Then I'll refrain from asking, but tell them to count on me if they need anything else, please. Thanks, I'll do that. Yuki grinned back at Ghidorah. He liked him, too. The way he lived a life so true to himself dazzled him a bit. So after a few more laughs, they shook hands. Well, Yuki, I'll be on my way. Whether it's a coup or something else, I look forward to whatever great escapade you're planning next. But, yeah, I know, if I commit regicide, you'll never forgive me, right? So long as you understand that, farewell then. And so Yuki and Ghidorah parted ways. Ghidorah's request for a meeting with the Emperor was accepted. Perhaps I should warn him once more, Ghidorah thought as he nervously waited. He wasn't sure if the advice would be taken, but even now he wanted to give one final piece of counsel to the man he owed such a debt of gratitude to. His Majesty awaits, his guide said, and a veiled attendant soon led him down a corridor. From its well-polished atrium, he could see the telltale light crimson colors of an all-season cherry blossom, its petals never falling off the branches, a symbol of the Empire's eternal existence, it was said. Ah, beautiful as always. But the Japanese otherworlders who saw it had quite a different opinion, didn't they? Is that so? Yes. What did they call it? Wabi-sabi? The aesthetics of that which is doomed not to last, or the like. The beauty of a cherry blossom, they said, lies in its fleeting nature. We all have our own way of seeing things, though, of course. Don't we, Sir Kondo? From behind the tree, an intense-looking young man appeared. I thought I had erased my presence, and yet, that you certainly did. I didn't notice you one bit. Just call it a foreboding, I suppose. The vague, ever so vague sense of impending danger. Ghidorah took out his beloved staff. The attendant had discreetly vanished at some point. I can't let you have an audience with His Majesty. Why is that? I have no intention of telling you, and you would gain nothing from knowing. As First Lieutenant Kondo spoke, he held something in his hand, a metallic object, a dull shine running along its oblong form. It was a classic Nambu pistol, the first semi-automatic weapon produced in what was then the Empire of Japan. You mean to kill me? Ghidorah asked, his eyes sharp and penetrating. Kondo didn't react. Kondo, you? Just as he attempted to raise his voice further, Ghidorah felt a stinging pain in his chest. He saw it coming. Ghidorah knew what guns were. He was on the lookout for Kondo's trigger finger, and his ears were attuned for the gunshot that never sounded. But most of all, his chest pain came from the back of his body, and as he slowly lost consciousness, he added everything up. This wasn't a bullet wound. It was a knife in his back. Kondo had done nothing. Instead, it was another. Why did you do that? Kondo asked. Because this man is dangerous. If we allow traitors in our midst, it will hinder the next emperor's reign. The other person's voice was familiar to Ghidorah, but he had trouble believing it. Perhaps he thought this was a hallucination before he died, but this man is a close friend of His Majesty's. Ghidorah's consciousness was almost gone. Now he couldn't even hear Kondo's voice. All that awaited Ghidorah was an assured death. Poison, too? They spared no precaution, I see. This, too, is my punishment for attempting to betray Emperor Ghidorah. But he was guaranteed to die like this, so as the never-withering cherry blossoms danced in the air around him, Ghidorah made one final bet. He triggered a spell he had put in place beforehand, and then he blacked out. 3 minutes before 10 o'clock, baby! We finished the chapter!
Yeah, he did it. He did it.
You wanted
I'm
to
proud
know
of
if
you.
I could pull it off. Woo! Did it, baby. Bro, we actually finished this chapter. Look at that. Bro, we're actually going to finish. We're going to finish this effing book next week.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to finish
At this
this
rate,
fucking
yes.
book next week. We only have one chapter left. We have chapter 5 toward the opening battle, and then we have the epilogue. That's literally
Yes.
it. We're going to finish this chapter.
Yep.
We're going to finish. Because literally, dude, this chapter has less. Chapter 5 is shorter, I think, than Chapter 5 and the epilogue are shorter than chapter 4.
Dang, okay.
Yeah, we're
This one was
actually going
already
to
a
make
pretty
it
short
through.
chapter.
Sonic, I know you didn't have a lot to go through, but I mean, we got to commentate on it. Did you enjoy all of the mystery and the intrigue and the setup of what's coming? Next, all right, I promise, the action is happening next book. We're getting to the action next book.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's happening next book. Shit, I need to go
Yes.
to Walgreens. What time does a Walgreens happen? You're muted.
Get it.
There you go.
Dang it. Yeah, it's like, I didn't expect Ghidorah to be dead here. It's like, oh, shit. Like, I saw the pictures,
mean, he
like, oh,
did
man, this
just,
guy just got shot, and that was it. It's like, oh, he got stabbed. But,
I mean,
Yeah. He did just casually be like, yeah, I'm going to go join Rimuru. That was my real plan. Even though
I
they
mean,
were...
yeah, in
Dude,
hindsight, what'd
but
you
it was
think
like-
was going to happen?
Not all Walgreens
Yeah,
are
bless you.
24 hours. I think the Walgreens nearby is not 24 hours.
It's going to be interesting to see how this plays out, because, like, well, excuse me, we basically learned
Unless they have
what the
been-
Empire has.
Yeah.
We have not seen the Emperor's face, though. I'm still thinking that it's just an old man just sleeping the whole time. And then
No.
he's going to wake up like, what?
No,
What happened?
the
Rimuru be
the
like,
Emperor is
wait,
not-
we went to war? What?
The Emperor is not an old man.
Is it
Yeah,
the
he's like
Marshal who is maybe or not Veldora's older sister?
The Marshal is not the Emperor either. No.
Ah, dang. Is the Marshal Veldora's older sister?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
That was... He already established it earlier.
Okay, yeah. That's
We
kind
don't know
of
her
what I
name, though,
thought.
so...
Okay.
Is
on the cover. Let's see. We're
trying
on
to think
volume
who would be the
14.
Emperor.
There's 14. Okay, so 13 is gonna have the three of them on it, the three demons. Volume 14, on the cover of volume 14 is the Emperor, or not the Emperor. That's the Marshal. The cover of volume 14 is the Marshal.
Okay.
And the cover of volume 15 is Rimuru the True Dragon. Yeah. No
He
longer
has
with
pants?
bat
Oh
wings.
my God.
Those are no longer
Oh
bat
no,
wings. Those are
he's
dragon
hot.
wings. So you get dragon wings on your Rimuru Tempest. So there you go.
Instead of bat wings, I
Instead
think
of bat
they were.
wings, they are dragon wings. Dargan wings.
I mean,
So
I
we
get.
have-
Oh,
still
as far as like design wise, what's the difference? No,
we still have instead of design wise.
Yeah,
do you
what
not-
is the difference design
You
wise
don't know.
between
You don't
bat
know
and
what,
dragon?
You don't know the difference between bat wings and
I
dragon.
honestly, I'm trying to think of it right now. I'm drawing a blank. Like I feel like later on I'll be like, oh yeah,
You'll
but it's
know-
like
you'll
I guess
know
like
when
it
you
depends
see
on how the
You'll
hooks.
definitely know when you see it. You will know.
Oh yeah.
All right.
And you're gonna tell. I guarantee you're gonna tell me too. Like you remember the difference between bat and dragon wings? So it's like I don't remember asking that question. Well, here you go.
Well, it doesn't matter.
Point
All right. So, volume 16 will definitely be out, but well before we get caught up, because. But we will
still
be
got
hitting
time.
before we get to July. Before we get to July, we will be on volume. We will be on volume 13. So we will be reading volume 13 hopefully in July. I'm hoping, like, I am starting to panic now because I don't know where I'm going to be next month. Yeah, volume 16 comes out in August. And I don't know where I'm going to be staying next month. So it's getting scary because I have not gotten contacted by the VA for my stuff yet. And I filed last month, and they have not even started processing any of my stuff that I filed for. And it's like, get off your ass and move, because clock's ticking. So it's literally like, hey, this is my life you're playing with. Please stop. Wait. So, yeah. I don't make a lot of money, and I'm kind of a broken, disabled person right now, and I really need the VA to get off their ass and start processing my disability claims. Because, Jesus Christ. I need to be able to actually...
Getting pinchy.
Yeah, I need to actually, like, afford to, live. You know? And, the living situation that had been set up got disrupted by some asshole who decided to go and steal Revan's fucking identity. So thanks to that. Thanks for that, fuckface. Otherwise, things would be a lot more stable.
Ugh.
Be in a much better place.
Oof.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, jerk. Whoever this fuckface is in Florida.
I know, right?
Let's
Florida man himself.
Florida man himself. Let's just.
Fuck you, Florida man.
Yeah, fuck
Florida man steals identity. Which one? His.
No. It's a fair statement, though.
Anyhow,
His, but.
thoughts on this chapter? Go for it.
I think that this chapter basically was like, like I said, it's the entirety of the fucking, oh yeah, he's just a guy. Oh yeah, it's just an army. And it's like, oh god, they're in for an extremely rude awakening.
They have
It's like-
tanks. They have blimps.
It's like watching a person drive past like 50 stop signs, like right before a giant cliff over a giant pit of spikes with like things living inside of the spikes with spikes on top of them. So it's like, oh,
There's spikes within
I guess
the
I can't
spikes.
stop them. And I can't stop them. They're wearing headphones. So it's like, okay, well. I guess
All
I
the
just gotta
blood
watch.
flow. It's kind of what
Yeah.
I mentioned earlier. All the blood flow. So that would be going to their brains. is going to their dicks, not in a weird way, but rather than like they
It's
want to establish that they are the dominant power.
yeah, but then it's
And
like they are. Ooh,
They can't think like we don't need intelligence. We have enough. You
yep.
sent
And then they're
one party with a man who was
they're
reluctant to even stay with you, and that you just killed.
reluctant. Yeah,
The scout party you sent that was sent on your behalf more or less has no allegiance to you now.
yeah. Well, we don't know who killed him, but I'm pretty sure it was somebody we know, probably. So
Maybe
I don't
Yuki.
know. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't doubt it, but that might be like the red herring that the book wants us to believe, because how
Yuki's secretly
trustworthy
the
he
good
is.
guy. It's like,
Well, or something. He's definitely got his own agenda. So
oh yeah.
I mean, that's probably I don't know who did it, but it's like I'm sure the book is probably like, hey, remember the guy who likes to stab you, make backstab? Maybe it's that guy. So I don't know. I like to think that it wasn't because
Could be the
just
marshal.
for the sake of it could be.
Also, guys, if you think that
could be.
Ghidorah is well and truly dead, you don't know what series you're reading.
Yeah, because he
I'd
triggered the
imagine not.
fucking spell. Yeah, because the sentence he did a spell and then blacked out is like, okay, he's fine. He'll be fine.
He'll be fine.
I could see why
Yeah.
they would kill him off at this point, but
If the last sentence was and his body disappeared like cherry blossoms like Oogway and Kung Fu Panda, then I'd be like, okay, he's dead.
yeah.
Yeah, that kind of seals it.
I do have a theory,
Well,
like going
also-
like
also
we've
we
talked
could go into
multiple
Kung Fu
times
Panda about
the
Oogway
fact-
too, but
we've also talked multiple times about the fact in this series that this guy has reincarnation magic. Like
Yeah, so
he
he's
literally-
fine.
He literally.
Oh,
like,
yeah,
does
that's right, I forgot about
reincarnation Magic.
that's probably what the the spell is for. Like, just okay, well, I'll be killed here.
It's probably that like a death
There you go.
totem or something, but
He hits a
That'd
pause
be
when he's
fine.
reloading his previous save or whatever, or
He'll
a
be
new
fine.
save.
yeah, he'll be fine. I don't know.
Unless
who it
Richie's
is
just
who
leading
stabbed
us
him,
to
but,
believe that.
Yes,
he can
I'm
neither
lying to all
confirm
of
nor
you.
deny these claims.
I'm lying to everyone.
Yeah,
so-
he doesn't want to spoil it.
Yep. Yeah,
All right.
but we'll have to just see next week.
Yeah, we'll have to
Mhm.
find out. We will have to find out. Surprisingly, we
Yep.
actually got done way earlier than we normally do. So
hmm Yep. We were
Yeah, a little bit
focused.
earlier than we normally would on the early times.
it helps when we don't have
Yeah,
Moon
which is
distracting
nice.
us.
I get some food.
Yeah.
Are you saying Moon is holding us back?
No,
Man.
we hold ourselves back.
I don't help with that either.
Ouch.
Yeah, I don't help with that either.
Batman
I
kills
wouldn't-
Rimuru. You can't kill Rimuru. You can't kill Rimuru.
I think someone
Yep.
mentioned earlier in the chat like something about the
Why would they
Weed
be
Princess.
fighting
Hold on.
Why would
I
I think the Weed Princess supplies the Empire.
The Weed Princess.
yeah.
Shh. If we get to hear the whole reason that the Empire declares war on the Dworgen Nation is because of the Weed Princess. They're like, they will not give up the Weed Princess. We need that dank Kush. Let's go to war.
Like the Weed Princess has declared that she's going to be the exclusive dealer only to Tempest, and it's
Yeah.
like, that's it.
War, but-
Nope, going to war.
Yep. Must be extremely dank. Kush.
Everyone buys from her.
Extremely
I buy from her.
I mean, the silliest thing is, I think from season 2 onward, like once we get past season 2, I think I'm probably gonna stick to the canon. I'm probably gonna stick to canon, kind of in a more Dragon Ball Z abridged style. Like I'm not gonna stray from the canon too much. Like we'll still keep some of the jokes, like cookies, Weed Princess, stuff like that. But
Yes.
I'm gonna stick a lot closer to the canon because Rimuru is just gonna be like, you know what? Rather than screw around too much, let's just actually tell the story that they were trying. You know what? I just want to like let the story actually do. Let's let the story be
Yeah.
the story.
Mm-hmm.
And you can have plenty of fun while also doing that too. But
Yeah.
I believe in you.
Yeah, and so cause like after season two, where we find ourselves in season 2, guys, if you haven't checked out Log Horizon Abridged, you need to check out Log Horizon Abridged, because where we're at with Season 2 of Slime Abridged, when we get to Season 2 of Slime Abridged, some stuff happens.
Mhm.
I don't want to spoil it for you, but, like...
Important for context.
Like, if you haven't checked out Slime Abridged, then, like, Slime Abridged and Log Horizon Abridged are directly connected. And so you need to, like, you need to watch Log Horizon Abridged to kind of understand where we're at with Slime Abridged. Because, like, halfway through Slime Abridged, certain events are going to take place in the quote-unquote real world. Like, if you haven't figured it out yet, Slime Abridged is not the real world, obviously.
Yes.
It is the other world.
We have a cinematic universe, as it were.
It's not an isekai world. It's an other world.
Oh god! Oh,
Yes.
yeah, no, not an isekai cinematic or isekai universe.
I will begin the earnest process of getting to work on the Konosuba narrative tomorrow. Dude, I have been beaten down by the YouTube nonsense lately. It's like every time I gather up the motivation to start writing, I see another thing about, like, another abridger is just going through the ringer on copyright bullshit, and it kills all of my fucking motivation. And it's just like, why do I
Yeah, it's
even
like,
try? And it's like, why do I even fucking try? It's like, we have all these ideas and everything, and I'm like, oh, I'm so excited to work on this. I can't wait to get writing. And then I go and I see another fucking thing of somebody going through the fucking copyright nightmare nonsense. And not only the copyright nightmare nonsense, but the outright abuse that, like, is going on with the system right now. Like, where they can just be like, nah, we want to keep denying over and over and over and over and over. Like now you've got double and triple jeopardy on the copyright system. Now you can get them claimed over and over again by the same fucking people,
And for the same video. For nothing.
By the same people for the same video again and again at the exact same spots. It's already been, it's gone through the process and everything, and they can just keep doing it.
Oh, what was the...
It's never ending. They literally will keep this shit up to bury you under this and make you not want to do this. They will beat you down because the Japanese do not understand parity and fair use law. They just don't.
I remember with a couple months back, it was "Am I a Jerk?" went through that exact thing.
Literally, they are just trying to beat you down with a hammer, and it's like YouTube's not going to do anything about it unless you raise a big enough public stink. And here's the thing: the abridging community will not come together. Literally, if the abridging community came together to do something about this, we collectively, not only as, like, big abridging groups like Something Witty, Team 4-Star, Schmucks, like, and all of us small abridgers, and please notice, Fat Dogs, we're small-time abridgers. Like, if we were to go back to what we had before 2020, when our channel went down, we would be, like, mid-size abridgers. We're just now getting back to where we're climbing out from small time back to medium. We're just to the point of that. But yeah, we're just now climbing out of algorithm hell. We are fighting against the YouTube algorithm ban, the shadow ban that we've had on us since 2020. So yeah, there's some nonsense, and trust us, the Twitch nonsense that happened last week, that doesn't affect our channels because we're not putting up ads and stuff like that. But I mean, that's not helpful to us either. I mean, we appreciate it. It's sad that Twitch takes the 50% cut, but, like, you know, it is what it is. We'll take the money where we can get it because we're not making a lot. That's why that's why we're not getting sponsors for our videos or any of that shit like that too. We don't have enough attention on our shit to even get sponsorships, guys. That's another thing that's really sad. We don't get enough eyeballs on our shit to get sponsors. If we got sponsors, we'd be, like, so happy. if we could get sponsors on our abridged episodes, we would do that and be like, hey guys, this project was sponsored by this. If we could get sponsors on our videos, we'd be able to put out videos hella faster. Because then we'd be able to pay everybody on staff for this stuff. But we can't. And that's why we're pushing Patreon so much. It's why it's so important that we have Patreon. So if you want to help and get content out faster, Patreon. Just can't stress that enough.
It might be a thing where you just put Patreon like a logo for it, like on the stream.
We're grateful for every patron we get, dude. It's not that we've got Nightbot spamming our Patreon. That's what's really there. Yeah.
Yeah, but something more visual too, like right on it, not in your face, but.
No, we can't. Twitch's new rules.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
Yep.
Yeah, you can't stream on multiple platforms unless
since
it's either Twitch or everyone else.
Since the banner is not advertising anything, I'm keeping the banner up. Otherwise, yeah, we're not advertising the product. I don't know.
Is that motorcycle?
I heard some
guy just banging on your door or something.
Guys, by the way, guys,
No.
Right, but anyway, we will see you guys next week for Chapter 5 and the epilogue as we finish up this volume. Thank you so much. Let us know what all you think.
Thank you.
I'm hoping to get Slime 9 out in a couple of weeks. I'm not hearing anything from Calvin. I'm hoping to hear from
Fingers
him
crossed.
soon. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Hope he's doing okay.
Yeah. Yeah, see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye for now.
Yep. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Take care. See you next week.